Amin was trying to warn me, Stugotz. I don't know what his reasoning was for on the air yesterday refusing to answer my questions when I kept asking him, what did I get wrong about Enes Kanter? What did I get wrong? What did you think that I got wrong? He would not answer me yesterday for some reason. I suspect he might today because Enes Kanter went on Fox News, was used as a tool by a smiling Tucker Carlson who got him to say, basically, shut up and dribble to anyone who dares to criticize America because he values freedom so much.
That he changed his last name to Freedom.
But there's some look at me with this person, and I called him last week the most unique activist in the NBA. And part of that is a rhetorical trick. There is no other activist in the NBA who's being persecuted by the Turkish government and is just doing Sammy Sosa's running around the bases with a tiny American flag. He's an American citizen, and he is happy to have his freedom because this country gave him everything, and he comes from a place where he is fighting his government. And so he's just like, everyone shut up about this country. Freedom is the main thing, and I recognize this in Cuban Americans. This is how you see Florida skews in a weird way pro-Trump because you get to freedom and it becomes your issue. That's your issue. You don't need to have any other conversations about the race stuff or anything, or you being used as a tool by the right. And one of the things that Amin pointed out to me yesterday off air, but not on air, that I hadn't even noticed it, is those same sneakers that he's saying messages that he thinks the NBA doesn't like about China and messages that are against the business of the NBA. Those same sneakers are Air Jordans. They're made in China. All this stuff is so entangled that it's hard to have the moral high ground without tripping over one of your hypocrisies. So anyway, why didn't you say, Amin, on the air yesterday what it is that I had gotten wrong? It would have been more informative to the people once Enes Kanter pops up on Fox News being used as a tool, and you realize, okay, wait a minute. This guy's not going to just start checking all of the boxes on activism. He's just here for freedom, 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 because that's something that's very easy to agree with.
Well, it's easy to agree with, but also I think he started his journey as an activist talking about something that was very personal to him and very detailed and very nuanced, which is what's happening in Turkey. And, I get the feeling that he liked that feeling of people looking at him in a different light, in a different kind of platform than just regular NBA player.
Listening to him.
Yeah, listening to him and having that platform and being able to be recognized for his efforts and expanded his scope beyond what's happening in Turkey. And, the text message I sent the group chat last night when that link went around of him on Tucker Carlson was that's a man who's heard the sound of the bell ring and decided he wants to hear it again and again and again. It's was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? And you look around and everyone's cheering like, I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep saying
things. It's the day he became a United States citizen. He is proud. Right. He is walking around this country proud of being an American. He's like a newborn with the emotion of, look, I won. Right. I got away from my government. I got to freedom.
And people will say, and you brought it up with Cubans here in South Florida, the idea that when you escape that kind of oppression, that kind of overt dictatorship and experience the United States freedom, there is a level of like, how can you guys ever complain? This place is amazing. But the idea is you can't judge this country that was founded on certain ideals by the standards of a Cuba, of a Turkey, of a Sudan.
But I understand how they do, though. I do understand how they happen upon that perspective from that prism. You should consider others and other perspectives, obviously. But I understand when Turkish people who are fleeing a government or Cuban people who know what it's like to be under the thumb of oppression say to you, this is the greatest country in the world, and I don't want to hear anything after that.
But by that same token, Dan, we can say, hey, there's a homelessness problem in this country. And it's true. But then if you compare homeless people in the United States to homeless people in Sudan, oh, you guys live like kings. But we all understand that's not a standard to measure by. I say, well, I mean, in the same way that we understand that people being paid sweatshop slave labor salaries or wages, well, that's a fortune for them in that country. But we still understand that's not the standard by what we hold to be true. And there's a part of this from Enes Kanter that is what you're describing. It's like when you come from absolute darkness and you get that one small matchstick of light, you're like, oh my God, I can see everything. And then there's also a part of it that I think there's an embedded narcissism of like, ooh, my voice matters. I'm not just one of the guys. I'm a guy that people look to and I get speaking engagements and all that. And I think
he changed his name. He changed his name because he wants to be this thing. He is removing his name to be this thing, to be Enes Kanter Freedom, because it is something that anyone can celebrate. He's getting applause. Even I don't know that Enes Kanter is feeling any of what might hit him when he is used as a tool on Fox News by a smirking Tucker Carlson who knows exactly what he's doing, because the best that you can say about some of what Fox News is doing is that it's dishonest, that it's not talking to Enes Kanter because you really care about how he feels about China. It's only caring about China so you don't have to care about black people. It's only caring about China so that you could rip NBA players for being inconsistent in their hypocrisies of business, advocating for black rights instead of doing so for human rights and Asian rights.
Hypocrisy that also is exhibited within Fox News and Starbucks and Nike and McDonald's and every other major American corporation. We talked about a little bit yesterday off air, Dan, the idea that it's so hard to extricate ourselves from China. If you were going to be this huge freedom fighter, so everything China is bad,
it's impossible.
It is literally impossible. You cannot do it because it's too late.
And that's not the NBA's fault or LeBron's fault or Enes Kanter's fault. That's the government's fault for getting into bed with China and human rights violations in a way that is commercial and inescapable from a long time ago.
Like it can't consumers too. Capitalism.
Look, here's what happened. Years and years and years ago, decades ago, we decided that the best way to spread democracy was through capitalism, right? How can you have a dictator? Because we're trying to fight communism. We're trying to fight socialism. So, hey, if we show people how cool money is, that'll make them want democracy and freedom. And what happened was China said, we'll take the money, we'll hold on everything else. They went a la carte on the menu, but because of their growing economic might, they were able to do that and flip the table to a point where—
aided by our economic might.
Aided by our economic plight, because they bought most of the debt when everything went to hell in 2000 and whatever. So that whole kind of flipping on its table, I don't even know if it's the quote unquote the government's fault. I don't know if it's anyone's fault. It was a chess move that failed. I don't think it was an irrational chess move, but it was a chess move that failed. And sometimes we talk about this all the time with teams that are cap clearing trades in order to sign the big free agent, and then the big free agent doesn't come. Does that mean everything they did was wrong or it just didn't work? Sometimes them be the breaks.
Mike gave me an "I told you so" on Enes Kanter when he sent me the link to that.
Well, that wasn't the exact phrasing.
You said that you had mentioned to the shipping container.
It was all very predictable that it would end with him appearing on Tucker Carlson, and that's not where it ends. It ends with CPAC appearances, like he's going to do the circuit.
Yeah, him in Rittenhouse.
Yeah, he's a person that's called Kevin McCarthy a friend. Thank you for your support and your friendship as we talk human rights and justice, because that's the easier justice for the GOP leader to discuss. That's the easier human rights issue to discuss. They're aligned. Conservatives are aligned on China. That's why they go at LeBron with that. That's always the counter to it. Well, you care. Well, what about China, LeBron? So he speaks, and I don't think it's a hypocrisy with Enes Kanter so much. It may eventually get there, but it's understandably his priority, given his story. Just like with LeBron, he has his priorities. And he prioritizes what happens here in the United States more than what happens in China.
But, Mike, it is a hypocrisy when you do the holier-than-thou accusatory language, right? If your thing is freedom in China, why is LeBron your target?
Well, yeah, if I'm handicapping it, he's going to play into all the right-wing tropes.
Of course, because it gets him the drug that he likes, which is attention. And you know, I don't say that.
And it's applause because he's getting a lot of applause for this. I'm not sure how much he's noticing the things that aren't applause.
Yeah,
on this.
Someone that's been disavowed by his country the way Ethan Hunt has in the Mission Impossible movies. Like, I imagine you can understand why someone would feel vulnerable in his position and why he would turn to a powerful political base that is offering support that his colleagues in the NBA don't. Like, I am not on Enes Kanter's side on a lot of things. I think he makes some good points, and sometimes the message gets muddied a little bit. I can certainly understand how he finds himself appearing on Tucker Carlson just because of his backstory.
Mike, you know what it is? The greatest corollary to this, it's like when Charles Barkley comes out and says things that are like, oh, black people need to stop making excuses. And all the right-wing people are like, see, look, great Charles Barkley said the thing that we've been saying all along. They're not agreeing with Charles Barkley. They're just agreeing with the target, right? Oh, you, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, basically. And so in that case, he becomes an ally. And that's all they're using Enes Kanter for. It's not because they agree with his points. It's just because they see, ooh, you're targeting the same guy that we like to target. So come on over here. We'll give you love and support. But the reality is it's all disingenuous.
He's volunteering himself as a puppet because it's always disingenuous when you wave the freedom flag at the same time you're chanting, shut up and dribble. They're antonyms. They're not the same thing. In fact, they're the opposite. Let me say one more thing. I've grown up with this, okay? During the Vietnam War protests, that spawned 10 million bumper stickers that said, love it or leave it. No, I'm not going to leave it, but I don't always love it. If my country is doing something wrong, I have the freedom of speech to express that. And don't tell me shut up and dribble while waving a freedom flag. It just hits a bad note.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand how Enes Kanter is simply walking into the room, okay, on the day he becomes a U.S. citizen with a tiny little American flag, and it's a harmless, patriotic gesture that is symbolic, and he doesn't realize that, hey, Enes, not all of us are looking at that same flag the same way that you are today, where you stop with your important freedoms at, hey, be happy that you're free. Don't complain about it. Don't complain about the United States. If the love it or leave it in that, he's coming in with what he thinks is a benign gesture. Now, it's pay the teacher, save the whales, pay the whales, save the teacher.
It's hard to argue from his perspective, though.
Who can argue with freedom is great?
Yep.
But that's his one note. It's his one issue. He doesn't. I don't think that he has. I don't think that
it's a good note to hit, though.
It's an easy, good note to hit, and we can all agree with freedom right up until the argument's going to start with, what do you mean I'm not free to criticize? What do you mean that I'm free right up until I can criticize the government? Then you're saying that I can't. You're just okay getting out from under Turkey's thumb. So okay, just getting out of Turkey's thumb that you're like, hey, be happy that you're out from under Turkey's thumb. Don't say anything against Turkey. And you wouldn't like it if we were doing that to you, right? If we were doing to Enes Kanter, hey, shut up. The things that you think are the right things aren't all the right things, because he's on there with no sense, right? This is not someone who's doing the math on this is inconsistent. I've gotten here, I'm arguing on behalf of freedom while telling others they shouldn't have the freedom to criticize the government. Like that, those two things can't coexist.
He's not seeing the irony in that.
Well, but is it a lack of intellect?
Well, maybe he is, and he's just grateful for the platform. Like, I'll take this because I'm not really being supported. The NBA is implicated in the China stuff. So if you're going to give me a platform to say what's important to me, I'll take it.
But what's the answer to, hey, your shoes are made by the Chinese? You haven't lost any money. You are
What's
risking.
the answer to, hey, tweet sent by iPhone? We have so many conflicts of interest here.
No one has all the answers, Dan.
We cannot get out of bed and
Thank you,
function.
Stugotz. Thank you for contributing to the
you want an
conversation
answer for everything.
in your
He's got it right,
special
though.
way.
Yeah.
He's got it right. You can't get out of your bed and function in a way you would seem sufficient without the help of China. You couldn't do what you do.
Any of us.
No, I wouldn't know what to. You couldn't get dressed. You couldn't hop in your car because certain parts are made there. You couldn't find MapQuest, which is apparently still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, to be fair, I don't think that's a necessary step in order to criticize China, is to disavow everything Chinese made. But the idea is you can't criticize China in that way, the way he does, with a very holier than thou tone, and still be tweeting from your iPhone and wearing Jordans and all that.
Right. But you could also have an iPhone, invest in companies that have great working relationships with that country, and also not be cool with genocide of Muslims. And do what you can to get the message out, as complicated of an issue as it is. And you could do all those things. We're not singular-minded individuals here. Unfortunately, he's playing right into one side on the right that has their set of like 5 issues, and it doesn't matter what kind of conflicts of interest you point out, what kind of hypocrisies. Those are rallying cries, and it's tribal over there. But I do think there are issues that you can tackle that have multiple facets to it, like gun issues. Like I was hearing a podcast, a Sunny podcast, and they were talking about how complicated guns are. Well, guns, yeah, it's a gun issue and it's a mental health issue. How about it's both those things? Like we are capable of tackling things from multiple fronts, but people, especially that channel that he appeared on, just has a singular focus: freedom or anti-freedom. And if you're not with us, you're anti-freedom.
Yeah, that's it. Like it is much simpler. It's so much easier to just do it that way, to be absolute about like this. Here's my issue. It's America, and that flag does mean the same thing to all of us. Even as black people are saying, well, no, I'm kneeling in front of it because it doesn't mean the same thing to me that it means to you anymore. That right now, I mean, we've talked about this recently. If somebody is driving past you with a giant American flag on their truck, that does not mean what it meant 20 years ago.
No.
Like too much has happened for you to just simply absorb what. If a boat goes past you with a giant American flag, that's not someone who's just identifying as, I really love this country. I love a certain thing happening right now in this country that makes that flag different things to different people. But I understand how Kanter arrives at his viewpoint on what that flag is.
And I deeply appreciate the perspective of someone that becomes a U.S. citizen, because you kind of see it through a child's eyes. Like it's all new. Like the American dream is very real. It's something that we're reminded of by our parents and our grandparents as they fled a far worse place. It's good to be reminded occasionally, like, you have freedoms here that other places don't, that this place is not all bad. That doesn't mean it doesn't need a lot of work.
The word you're looking for, Dan, is xenophobia. That's what that is. It's xenophobia. And it's happened through history in different countries, and where those colors, that flag, becomes something that can't be questioned, right? That, hey, if you question this, you're one of them.
And that's what he's saying, though. That's amazing that
Yep.
he's saying that without any, I shouldn't have said lack of intellect. Is he doing that with no introspection?
Awareness.
On what's happening there? Like, what is happening there that he doesn't realize that not only he's got a moral conflict on his sneakers, but also he's going on, he's going on Fox News to advocate for freedom and argue against freedom.
It's a misunderstanding of what freedom is, right? Freedom, in his sense, is you get to live your life undeterred by your government. But one of the things that I guess is just not put into the picture is that part of what he's fleeing in Turkey is oppression due to dissent, right? Part of the trick of authoritarian governments is if you say anything against the government, you are punished, you're thrown in jail, you're perhaps killed for your dissent. And I don't understand why people who then leave those sorts of environments don't comprehend that part of freedom is dissent. And then to try and quell other people's dissent is the strangest thing to me. I don't understand. And I just think it's a misunderstanding of what this freedom is. It's about the way you live your life as opposed to the way you interact with your government.
I've told this story before, that when I came to this country 14 years old, I was at the airport and doing passport control. And the one guy in passport control was talking to the other guy, hey, did you get your income tax refund? And he said, nope, Uncle Billy told me he got me next year. And it took me a second. I realized he was complaining about Bill Clinton. And I said, the president, oh my God, the secret police are going to jump out right now and drag this man away. I could not imagine the idea that government workers in an airport, which is the hive of government, like snooping and all that, that they would just speak so freely and so disrespectfully about the leader of the nation. And it took me a while to realize, oh yeah, that you can do that here. That's not a big deal. Like you are allowed to say something like that and still show up to work and not have to deal with any issues.
Kanter is so happy to have these crumbs of freedom that he doesn't actually realize that there can be more to freedom. He's still in the embryonic stages. Like I can't even imagine what it's like to feel under duress, like you're fighting the Turkish government. Like he is feared for his life. He's articulated all of that stuff, fearing that the consequences to saying stuff would be punished. So he's out here saying, I can say stuff, just you shouldn't say stuff if it criticizes the government. And it's just funny that it's why I've wanted to talk to him for a month. I've wanted to talk to him. We've been trying to get him so that I could sort of understand how it is that he's viewing all of this, and if he's doing what Amin suggests he's doing, which is just basically the Sammy Sosa run around the bases with the tiny American flags. Everybody will love that you're grateful to be in this country.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's gratitude. Like Enes Kanter fled something that was a threat to his life. A new country gave him a new lease on life and many riches, and it's gratitude. It's just expressed, in my opinion, the wrong way. Perhaps in other people's opinion, it's expressed the right way. But for me, to tell other people that they should just shut up and be happy with what they have is not the way to express the gratitude of what the country gave you.
Carlson couldn't help himself. Like, you see the smile on his face. It's as happy
He
as
knew.
you see him.
He
like,
knew.
He's like, I
Not
got
a
him.
smile. It's like a smirk.
It is.
You know?
It's
yeah.
normally got like this lost puppy dog eye, like, what you're saying is very intriguing. But that was just
That
like,
one got him.
oh, this is red meat for the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Enes. We've got a lot of things we got to get to. I've got to read a text string that involves shaving the hair off of Greg Cote's back. It was a very unpleasant way to start the morning today, but our CEO of Meadowlark Media lost at the grid of death, Bimal, and Bimal has to shave the back of Greg Cote. That's going to happen at some point during the show.
COO. It's a fine.
What did I call him?
CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Skipper.
Right.
Machine Gun Skippy's going to be mad about that. He's the CEO.
EOO. The coup.
That is the manscaping sound, and that text string made Jessica. I thought that Jessica would have already been sick because of the Notre Dame news, but nope. Jessica was sick this morning because of the text string that took place to greet all
Truly
of us.
disgusting, Dan.
I mean, it's just unbelievable,
Wait,
right?
what's so disgusting about it? Read the text string. There's nothing disgusting about this.
Well,
There's
there's
nothing
It was
bad.
the first thing I read this morning.
You'd think I might have been
I am
included
eating.
on the text string, but no.
Nope.
Greg Cote, of course, making it about himself.
I mean, it's my back, Jack.
As he always does.
It is his back. I mean,
That is true. I will get to the text string in a moment, but Chris Cote has now changed his opinion on Tua. I want to get to that in a second. Amin Al-Hassan was at the Heat game last night, a bit of a dud all around. I don't know if his experiment as Dom Kang
nailed
was
it.
successful or
Yeah.
not successful. I'd like to see if he interviewed the Jokic brothers. That was the big payoff that we were looking for. And Chris Cote just came into the room moments ago and said, just whispered to Stugotz, Tiger's talking.
Yeah.
Tiger's talking, and
He
then
is.
left the room. Just left the room because Tiger is in the middle of giving a press conference. And the last thing I heard Chris Cote say is that when I saw his swing, he looked like somebody who had been to hell and back. Like
He looked like someone who had been in a bad car accident.
that too. That as well.
Leaky faucet tart over here.
Yeah.
And that was just his swing.
Just to tell people quickly, if they're interested, what it is Tiger said, he has come to the reality that he will just have to pick and choose and play a few tournaments a year. And what that means is he will play one tournament before every major and then play the majors. And that's it. And I'm good with that.
I mean, most golf fans would be, correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they'd be good with, actually, you don't even have to play the tournament before the majors. You're doing that for you, not
It's
for
a
me.
tune-up, though.
You're doing that for you. I don't care whether you play that. I just want to see, can you get to the record by playing only in majors? And he'll get there. He'll try to get to Jack Nicklaus's record because it's what his father wanted for him, and it's what he wanted, and it's what he was born as a robot to do. But he's going to get there crawling if he gets there at all.
I think we should put him into the Sunday round of every tournament, and he's 5 strokes back.
Yeah, I think 5's a bit
You don't wanna
much,
give
a
him
bit
a lead.
aggressive. No, but maybe 2-3 strokes back.
I bet the
like that
PGA
idea.
Tour would
Yeah.
be okay with that.
That's a funny question
Yeah.
right there. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Would the PGA Tour
They'd love it.
be okay with Tiger Woods just changing all the rules of golf so that Tiger Woods just starts 5 strokes back and plays only
Oh,
the final
The
round?
ratings
Yeah.
would go through the roof.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, better make it 3 back. Because
think
that
3
guy-
back,
That
yeah.
guy ain't winning again. Let's
Right.
be honest.
Right.
That guy's not winning another tournament.
No, but you're just looking for moments. That's it. Can he have a lead after the 3rd round at Augusta, the U.S. Open, or something like that? I do like that idea, but 5 back is aggressive,
I don't think.
man.
I don't think the other PGA Tour players would be okay with giving him a lead. Like we need to make this tough
Yes.
on him. Like
Correct.
if
Right,
3
3
strokes-
back is tough.
Especially since I don't know if the stat is still true, but he doesn't exactly come from behind, right? He's always, if he's leading on the final day, those are the only ways he wins those things, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't rally from back on final days, does he?
I think he's done it once or twice, but usually it's him leading and closing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why they
it.
call him
Yeah.
out front Woods.
Mhm.
Right.
They don't call him that.
No one calls him
Nobody,
that.
I don't think it's
They
ever
do.
called him that.
No
Tiger
one-
out front Woods. You guys haven't heard of that?
Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
Jesus.
Look it up. At LeBatard Show. Put it on the poll.
Not even funny wordplay.
No, it's nothing. There's nothing funny
It's a
about that.
nickname.
There's-
Out front Woods. OFW.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Has anyone you've ever heard of in your life referred to Tiger Woods by the nickname Out Front Woods?
OFW. Awful joke.
Oh! Wow.
We will get to Dom Kang in a moment. But these guys have been talking about Tua, and the opinion has changed with a couple of victories and a couple of victories. He's played very well the last 4 games, whether they've won them or not. He looks under duress, under conditions that aren't ideal. He looks competent and solid and 80% completion rate. And you guys have talked yourself into he's better than solid. I just love that these appraisals come in at he started 11 games, he started 13 games, he started 15 games. I'm willing to go from he's not the answer to he's solid for the next 5 years if I can get him cheap, as the Dolphin fan base gets really mad at Keyshawn Johnson for saying he's the 4th best quarterback in the division, and that they swung and missed at quarterback.
Wait, did he say that today?
He said it like yesterday. I'll get the
Wow.
quote
Wilson
like he hasn't watched him for the last
like
month.
Dolphin fans are. I love Tua. I love Tua like a son. All right, but they are very sensitive when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa. That being said, I think he might be good.
Whitney and I were debating before the show whether he's good or solid. Wow. I don't know which is better.
Well,
Good is better. Good is
Good
better.
is way better than solid.
Good-
He's 7
is
and-
like-
he's 7-7 as a starter.
Okay, good stat.
Okay,
Not helpful.
solid.
It's not
No.
helpful. Don't do winning as a stat with the quarterbacks.
It's all about winning, Dan.
I've actually got some Tua stats. So this is from a great follow at CLEVTA. Has an analytics website that has been pretty helpful in gambling when I realize I'm just bad at it
They need a
myself,
better
so
name.
I need to outsource
They
it.
need a better name
Yeah.
for their handle.
Mhm.
Clavita? Sounds like
So
medicine.
OFW
It does, yeah.
Woods.
Sounds like something you get take medicine to get rid of.
Yeah, there's a commercial with some lovely instruments in the
Yeah.
background, a lengthy disclaimer.
yeah.
I
So,
have
A
Clavita.
ukulele. That's unreasonably happy people walking around in the background.
There's an explosive diarrhea.
Okay, here's a fucking stat. Since he came back in week 7, he's been the best quarterback in the NFL.
Hello.
He's faced 3 bad defenses, but Carolina has a good pass defense, and he has the highest expected points added at the position since he returned in week 7. Over the last couple of weeks, he's only been sacked twice. The offensive line is doing a little bit better. He does seem like he's under duress, but he's also doing a better job of handling that duress. His average yard per attempt has gone up. They've unlocked Jalen Waddle a little bit. Yeah, the schedule's been favorable. But like I told you, the pass defense of Carolina was really good, and he absolutely cut them up. So I'm beginning to think that he's not just solid. I think he's solid to good.
Let me do a comp. Let me do a
Wow.
comp.
Wow.
What do you guys
Solid
think of
to
this?
good.
A more mobile Chad Pennington.
Well, this is trust related now. If you're
hard to be more mobile.
If it's not hard to be more mobile. That's everyone.
It's also disappointing.
Yeah,
Pennington was a really accurate quarterback, a good top 15 quarterback, I'd say at one point.
Can I just what are you laughing about, Billy?
Tony just said boring.
I mean, Chad Pennington is a boring player. There's no doubt about that.
He
That's
was
why I threw
runner-up
in.
MVP, but he had like 3,000 yards.
That's why I
that
threw
year.
in the more mobile. When you throw in more mobile, that makes him slightly less boring.
All right.
Okay, I don't
Is
want.
Tua interesting?
No,
he's
He's
boring.
boring too,
No,
right?
he's boring.
Tua's not bad.
That's
Tua's
why.
not
That's
bad.
the comp.
as a talker,
Yeah, he's not terrible. He's not great, don't get me wrong, but he's not boring.
he's
would
just
know.
quarterback dry. He's quarterback. He doesn't reveal anything.
Yeah,
he's
I'm going to
just
trust someone that's been covering the Miami Dolphins for 5 decades.
okay. But how about you trust someone who sat with him in front of an audience, asking him an hour worth of questions, and had to work because each word was like getting a
Wow.
crowbar out of his mouth.
Bonafide.
Yeah,
Tua,
bonafide.
This is
bonafide.
Robert and
Right.
Dad.
But
really?
interesting
Just
to
an
you-
hour. 1-on-1.
Interesting to you when you're not out in these streets at camp talking to everybody. By comparison, Greg says he's fine. I'm going to go with he's fine. He's not Dan LeBatard quality. I'm sorry.
If you're
Part of
too-
conversation over here.
He's very nice. His family's very nice. He's not an interesting talker.
We drafted his family.
He's careful. He's very careful about what he
didn't
says.
call him interesting. He called him good.
I got a targeted IG ad for the official Tua lay, with Tua holding the lay. I didn't know it was a thing.
He's a businessman.
Yeah, $41 on sale. Cyber Monday.
Oh, that's a hell of a lay.
Expensive. Yeah.
Wow.
But he's good. He's a good quarterback. But I think the concern with Tua is always what it's always been since you drafted him.
Health.
And he's shown
Yes.
that he hasn't been really stable in that
But
department.
we're seeing with the Seahawks how bad they've become after they paid Russell Wilson. Is there a sweet spot for a quarterback where you want to be good, but you don't want to be top money good? Like Tua's a guy that he's good enough that they might give him a contract, but he's not going to get elite money.
Let me push back on the notion that paying Russell Wilson was a bad thing just because the last 3 games have been bad. And I am with you. If you drop me like onto this planet, explain the game of football and the quarterback position to me, and I saw the last 3 weeks, I might point to Russell Wilson and say that's one of the worst ones.
Do you want him over Baker?
Absolutely, because unlike Baker, like Russell Wilson has accomplished stuff. So you can say this is probably the finger. I'd
Yes.
have to have confidence that he can come back to some form. The problem with Baker is he's been so goddamn uneven that it's impossible to make an evaluation when he's hurt. With Russell, you extend him the credit because it has to be the injury because I've seen him be great. Seattle was very good with that contract for Russell Wilson. It's that bad offensive line and the injuries are catching up this season.
Would you take Tua over Baker?
I have the same concerns about Tua that I've always had, which is health. So, like, I want to make sure that my
Yeah,
quarterback's
but your
gonna be out
quarterback's
there.
broken. I mean,
Instead of
But he's
doing,
out there.
instead of
Most
doing,
important ability is availability, guys.
instead of doing the dance of 10 games in, 15 games in, we're going to fluctuate from he's no good to he's stable, solid, good. Do I want him for 5 years? And make it doing this math over the course of game to game. And did they win those games? I like better that Mike came in, and this is what is happening with Tua. Mike came in with all of those numbers and all of that analysis. But all I heard, and this is what Dolphin fans are feeling, was Greg Cote's analysis, which was the following. Hello. He entered.
not
He
wrong.
nailed it.
Yeah.
But with enthusiasm.
Succinct.
But with enthusiasm. This is how Dolphin fans feel after a
Right.
couple of wins and Tua completes 80% of his passes and they throw some downfield and Waddle looks good. Hello.
In and out.
Go ahead and factor that in, Pro Football Focus. What do you
Right.
think of that as analysis?
Exactly.
Hello. This is how Dolphin fans feel
Right.
today.
Emphasis on the first syllable, please. Hello.
The Flores era has been bizarrely streaky. It's really
They
weird.
get off to bad starts. Yeah.
It's not just about like it's weird when things just start going south for them. They go south for weeks on end. It's really odd. Same thing goes for the quarterback too, because there are weeks that we're having this discussion about Tua. Like, is this the guy? Do you trade for Deshaun Watson? What is the meaning of any of this? And now it's going well, and you're like, oh wow, what a draft pick with Jalen Waddle. Remember when we were saying what a bad draft pick with Jalen Waddle?
I don't feel like we were saying that. I thought
Yes, you were, because you were like Jamar Chase.
I
was
was
there.
not. I was not.
Why did we
You were
trade out of the
questioning
3
it,
spot?
yeah.
No, wait a
A
minute.
little bit,
That
you
is
were.
absolutely not true. You will find no sound of me questioning.
I think you said it was worse than the Ted Ginn pick. I mean,
I'm wondering how the debate between the two Chris's went, because I feel like Whitty will win a debate even if he has a losing argument.
Why do you feel that?
Wow, that underestimates you a great deal.
Well, no, not against just Chris.
It's an insult.
But I feel like Whitty would he's probably the one that was like in debate in high school, and he had the like little mini binder. You know how like
no doubt.
the master debaters had the mini binders that they had there
Oh,
that
master
weren't like the
debaters.
big
What?
ones. They were the smaller ones with the special paper that you put in, and they always had like the thespian club, like all of that. I feel like Whitty was in that.
Whitty, were you a master debater?
Confirmed.
Yeah, still is.
Captain.
Hell yeah.
Put it on the poll. Was Whitty the captain of the master debaters?
He wore the C. I mean,
He wore the C. Portugal has banned bosses from contacting employees outside of work hours, phone calls, emails, just banned it altogether. I don't know if you guys would like such a rule implemented here, because I do tend to text and email at 4 and 5 in the morning. But on the text string this morning, if it were to ever come up that we shouldn't be texting each other after work hours, I believe today is a good example of what you don't want to wake up to, Stugotz, because Billy Gill, this is 6:40 in the morning.
mm-hmm.
Does anyone have the Manscaped trimmer for Bimal to trim Greg's back today? The one I thought was in the studio is just a nose hair trimmer. So this is what passes for the beginning of our workday. And Mike Ryan comes in with, I have one. It's used though. Let's get some rubbing alcohol and clean it off.
Please.
God.
That was nice of Mike. I mean, came
You're
through in a
welcome.
pinch. Yep.
You're welcome. It seems like there was like a fundamental flaw in this activation.
Really?
Jessica writes, this has ruined my morning. Chris Cote writes, poor Bimal. And Mike Ryan writes, relax. I've just used it on my chest and some other places.
Oh, for the love of God.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the mental image that ruined my morning, was Mike standing over a sink, with rubbing alcohol, cleaning his manscaper with all his body hair.
I don't understand what do you assume gets done with a used manscaper? I thought I was being very helpful to the proceedings. We had planned for a manscaping trimmer. That plan fell through. I was right there, and I offered, hey, we should even clean this because I've used it before. No harm, no
When
foul.
you say one is used, though, the visual you give off is you with one leg up on the counter.
Of course, we all thought it, but it was a good
Yeah.
job by Mike in a pinch
at
there.
6
We
a.m.
needed one.
That's what we
yeah.
all thought about.
I mean,
I
I
demand a
wasn't-
new trimmer.
I wasn't actively using it when you text
Right.
it,
Never before used trimmer, I demand.
but I have used it on my butthole, if that's what you're suggesting.
You do a one or a two.
I go high and tight.
well, here, we could just now do this. This is
Now it's on your mic.
That can't touch my back.
Oh,
primarily an audio medium. Now that the thought has been planted, I want all of you to drink in the idea of just, here's Mike Ryan.
Give it a little undercut.
His leg is on the sink.
Oh, high fade.
He's totally nude, but he escaped. He is well groomed, and he is a delight to be around because he's not unkempt in that area.
He's manscaped.
As I imagined Greg Cote might be, because he hasn't been able to get off of a leg
let me
on
just
a
get on the
counter
record.
since 1994.
When is the last time you put your leg up on a counter?
I do it all the time.
No, we don't have to do that.
For personal amusement.
mean,
Flexibility to be able to do
Yeah,
that.
you can't do that. I
No,
don't
I
think
can't do it. Are you kidding me?
Prove it.
I can do a leg kick like a rocket.
I believe it.
There's no
can.
way.
All right,
There's
I
no
believe
way.
Nimble.
I
I
don't think
believe
you
it.
can get your leg up on this table.
Lewis,
Child's play.
now, Lewis, can you go to the bathroom, Lewis, with Greg Cote and just where the counter to the bathroom at the Clevelander is? I
No,
want
he's
to
gonna get
video
hurt.
whether Greg Cote can put his leg up
It's child's play.
to manscape correctly on a Clevelander bathroom desk.
I have Mediterranean blood. I have Cuban blood. I'm very hairy, all right? And I just want to come out on the record and say balls are disgusting, all right? And you need to make sure that you're good there.
that is true.
It's a courteous thing to do. Balls are gross. Also, shaving balls is a very dangerous game.
Oh, the
among
most
the most
dangerous.
dangerous.
That I cannot
Perhaps the
confirm.
most dangerous of
Not
games,
with a
yeah.
manscaper though.
No,
it
because
helps a lot.
I have contour and lights, and which are very necessary for me, because I like to set the mood.
It's like a Dyson vacuum. Got a light so you can guide it.
Just
How about that?
that area in South Florida can get swampy, so you want to make sure you're nice and ready down there. So I'd like to thank the fine folks at Manscaped for this ball trimmer that we're going to take to your back.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. At LeBatard Show, shaving down there, dangerous game. Yes or no?
I demand an unused trimmer. I seriously do.
We found
this
one,
is
so you're
untenable.
okay.
Did you?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
sure
we
about
found
that?
one.
In hindsight, I should have started that text with "Good morning."
Yeah, that's or included me in it.
Again, wrapping it all in a circle. If it doesn't involve Greg Cote, it did not happen. Greg
It's his
Cote,
back,
right?
I
It
mean.
is.
Thank you.
It is his back.
Do you
but
even have hair on your
I don't
back?
imagine
I
that
may
you
not.
would. I don't imagine
Well,
that you would have hair.
Why are
on
we
your
doing
back.
this then?
Greg, go with Lewis.
Well,
Greg, go.
because of
Okay.
how unpleasant it'll be for Bimal to shave certain pimples in places that haven't been washed in 50 years.
I do want to say one thing. You know, you never look at your back. I don't know about the rest of you. It's been 40 years since I've seen my back. I may have a thick thatch of hair back there, in which case I want Bimal to engrave the Greg Cote Show podcast
Wow,
logo in my back.
I'm kinda with
That's what I'm
him.
going to ask him for.
I can't remember last time I looked at my back.
What would you look at your back?
Put it on the poll. Jessica doesn't understand.
Tony, do you do a lot of back looking?
There's parts of my back I haven't been able to touch in
Oh, for
at least
sure.
20
forever.
years.
Yeah. But how do you
I
look at
try
your
to
back?
bathe, and
I
I know there's
Mirrors.
probably a spot there that's just super
Mirrors.
dirty.
You don't wash your back in the shower.
You give it the over the shoulder, like a little Julia Roberts.
You just let the shampoo run down your back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's washed.
Once
Oh
every
my
5 years or so, I'll
God.
lay down in the tub and I'll just slide back and forth on the bottom and know
Yep.
that I got everything.
Easy peasy.
What if there's something bad on your back and you don't notice it, and then you have like a growth or something?
You want to know what true love is? Is having your wife come in and help you with the back as you get older. That's what true love is.
Has she ever walked in on you manscaping with your leg on the counter? Because that seems like
She
a
doesn't walk
vulnerable
in on
position.
that, but like while I'm undergoing the proceedings, I'm like, hey babe, come in here and get my back. Watch out for that pile of hair.
Abby would throw up.
Why did you ask like that was a crazy question when like this entire show has
What
just
has my
happened?
wife walked in on me shaving my balls like this is like American Pie or something? No, that hasn't happened. I make it very clear, honey, I'm shaving my balls. Don't walk in.
Maybe she thinks that it's just naturally, like, not hairy.
No. My wife has a very good idea of how hairy my nether regions are, and
I would hope so.
I'm sure that she would understand that what I do is not just for me, but also for her. In South Florida, there is a selfish aspect to this too because it gets swampy.
It does. You're right.
It's a hygiene
Yes.
thing,
I want to ask, though, what level...
especially in the asshole.
I agree.
What a strange thing to agree with
The shadows
vigorously
in the
off
back.
microphone. I just want to know.
Hell yeah.
Hello. I want to know how vulnerable. If you have a more vulnerable moment, Greg Cote has just returned from this experiment with Lewis, where
Wow.
he has either put his foot successfully on a counter or not. And I want to ask Mike Ryan if nude while tending to this region with a foot on a counter or a sink.
I don't put my foot on the counter. I can get out. I'm fairly flexible. I can get down there. I'm not exactly Joe Rogan with the thing, but you know,
This is an even better visual.
Wait a second. You're like you're putting
No,
your
man,
head
I
down
just-
in between your
Why are
legs.
you-
Like, what are you doing?
Like, okay, am I the only person that shaves his butt? Yeah?
Yes.
I'm the only person that shaves his spewed and chodes and the whole thing?
Lewis just raised
Yeah.
his hand
No, I am.
and then put it down self-consciously.
No, I'm not.
I don't even know what those words are.
I do like the
You haven't
circular
gotten the
area.
chode?
I do like the circular area.
Yeah.
No, Mike. I understand, but you do it without putting a leg up on the counter.
No, I don't have to do it with a leg up on the counter. I just get underneath there. Look, I'll give you a visual, right?
Okay, let me see.
please don't.
Right in the middle. Like
Right.
that sliver of skin between the butthole and the ball.
I feel
doing
bad
that.
for your shaver, man.
Thank God we don't have an HR department.
Yeah.
This is Manscaped.
This is worse than
what
Brian Kelly leaving for LSU.
Look, this is a product endorsement. This is like if I'm in the sales staff.
This is a hell of a commercial. This
Yeah,
is
I'm
how
like a dog
all
with
our
a bone on
commercials
this
should
one.
be right here.
But
I'm
aren't
gonna
you
get an air
worried?
check of this one.
You're doing
I
it.
honestly
Manscaped.
don't see what's so weird. Like this is a reality of the situation for men. We all do it. You've
Well, you
all
do-
taken one of these things to your balls.
Not blindly though. Like,
What do you mean blindly?
How
I'm
do
looking
you
right at the
see?
thing.
Well, there's a light on it.
Look at, there's a light. I lift,
The lawnmower,
lift
I think it's called 4.0,
I
has
lift
a light
this
on it.
up.
You just called it a dangerous game. You're doing it without
is.
putting a
Well,
leg
no,
up.
but
I mean,
not
So
with-
you
not
gotta, like,
when-
You do a
sharpen
little
them out.
lift.
It's almost like a single blade.
Mike,
like
you do a
you're
slight
sharpening,
lift,
like-
but I'm
like
not
your
going. You're
Sweeney
going.
Todd.
I think you're going a little deeper than most of us. Like you do a little.
No, you
Nah,
gotta get in
you don't
there.
go that deep.
You gotta get in there.
There it is. It needed to be said. It needed to be said.
Thank you, Amin, for all of your
Look,
contributions.
Joe, Tane, call it what you will. It needs to be tended to.
Amin,
This is a Miami thing too, I think.
did you just shout?
I think people have hair everywhere.
Yeah, but in Miami, it's like more. We need it more because it's so swampy. It's a swampy thing.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does Miami need it more because it's more swampy down there?
Yeah, you get the swamp ass. You hate that. When you're unkempt, you get out of your car like, God damn it, I should have shaved the balls. Like I'm gonna be regretting this one for a while.
I agree.
I know my dad has never done any of that for sure, which can't be pleasant either.
I don't want to devolve into this conversation.
This is not. This is. We're just a bunch of
Beneath
dudes.
you.
Admit it, you've never
We're
groomed.
not,
just a bunch
admittedly.
of
We're
dudes.
not all a bunch of
We're
dudes.
just a bunch of dudes here talking about the reality of the situation. I like to feel like our listening audience feels like we're giving voice to everyday things that pop up in their lives, and we're just talking about it. It's a very difficult thing to shave one's balls. And thankfully, Manscaped has stepped up to the plate to make it easier. My nutskin's only got caught in this maybe once. Once, maybe.
Wow.
And that was operator error because I have to be careful. But unlike my old shaver, it would happen all the time, and that is painful.
You
It
got to be
is
very careful.
startling. Like, did I break the sack? There have been times where I'm like, is the sack broken? Is there fluid leaving my body right now? Because this shaver is crap. But thankfully, Manscaped has a light at the end of it.
I've cut myself.
You have.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Because of
have.
this conversation,
For a long time now, Ron Magill, for free, I might add, has been a weekly guest on this show. It is very popular. If you wish to help Ron Magill with some of the things he cares about or believes in, his endowment, it is substantive, and you can find it online without getting in any trouble at work for searching for his endowment. And if you want to help the animals, he is doing some things that genuinely care for the animals, and you can get rid of the bureaucracy and all the layers that you have to go to sometimes when you're giving, and know that you can help the animals if you're doing it through Ron Magill. So we urge you to check that out. I saw that one of the things you're doing at Miami Zoo, Ron, that you told us about, that eagle cam has now borne fruit. That is a fairly rare thing, right? To be able to see on camera, eagles taking care of an egg, right?
It's fantastic, Dan. And I actually watched, they don't only have one egg, they now have 2 eggs. She laid another egg on Saturday night. And it is just fantastic to see it happen live. I mean, I watched her. She was like going in labor. You can see her on the cam. She stands up and she ruffles her feathers and she starts shaking. And you see her kind of push once and push 2. And then all of a sudden, and then she turns around and stands up. And there's the second egg. And she did the same thing with the first egg. And I got to tell you something. I got goosebumps. It just moved me to tears to watch this happen live, to have this intimate window into the world of bald eagles 85 feet up in the air on a camera at night. It's infrared camera, so you see it like it's daytime. So it's fantastic. And now they're there just incubating the eggs. They named the eagles. I had nothing to do with naming them, but they named the eagles Ron and Rita after me and my wife.
Wow.
You had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
huh?
nothing at all.
I know. I had no
Look at
input
me.
on that.
Sure,
That was a surprise
Should
to
have
me.
named him Look at Me and Louie.
What a coincidence.
Happenstance, right?
What are the odds?
Are you guys done?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean,
Okay, let me go with the rest of the story. So anyway, they named her Rita Ron, which was a huge honor for me, but also made me very nervous because, so many things can go wrong. I mean, gosh, one of the parents could die from, ingesting a rat with rodenticide with poison in it. It's happened to eagles before. An eagle can abandon the nest. The eggs can get predated on. Ants can get in there. There's so many things that could go wrong. The bottom line is only 50% of bald eagle pairs successfully fledged young. So there's a lot of challenges ahead. So when you get a name associated with it, if something bad happens, all of a sudden you've got this horrible stain on your name because, it's because they named him Ron that bird was a sucky father or whatever, So it's a huge honor, but at the same time, a huge risk.
Deadbeat.
That's why Disney refused to allow us to name a hippo Dan LeBatard, and then tried to buy you off with a $10,000 donation, and then we had to leave.
That is true. But for the record, Dan LeBatard is thriving, is doing just wonderfully. As a matter of fact, Dan LeBatard may be getting a little Val of his own pretty soon.
What is happening over there? What are you saying? What do you mean? What do you mean that
Hell yeah.
the Zoo Dan LeBatard is going to get a playmate?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Zoo Dan LeBatard may be going on a excursion pretty soon to meet a set-up date, so to speak. It's kind of like planned dating, computer dating. And the computer says that there's a female, I believe she is in Pennsylvania. I got to double check, but that she is awaiting to feel some of that Dan love.
All right.
You want more than dating, though, right?
Yeah, it's an arranged marriage.
It's exactly what it is, an arranged marriage. That's the best way to put it.
How does that get chosen?
Both happy with that.
How does that get chosen? Why wouldn't you? Why do people have to be, or why do hippos have to be imported in, and why can't it just be more natural than that?
Well, because we look at the genetic background of the hippos, what their genealogy is, and what the best way is to create the most diverse gene pool so that their offspring are the healthiest they can possibly be. We don't want it to be like, royalty where cousins are marrying cousins just because you got to keep it in the family. You got to keep it out of the family. And we are very careful in accredited zoos to make sure we know which animals are related to other animals. And, generally speaking, we will ship the male to the female. Because we'd like the female to always be more comfortable in her surroundings and her environment there. So we'll ship the male to the female once the recommended breeding is made.
It's very progressive. The male is getting flued out, huh?
Yeah, the male's the one that gets flown out. Listen, in a perfect world, we wouldn't even fly the male out. This is going to sound a little depressing for most guys because right now we use a lot of artificial insemination too. We would just collect his sperm and fly that up there in a tube, which is a lot cheaper and a lot less risky for the animal itself. Because, when you ship an animal, you move an animal, there's a risk there. So we are using artificial insemination. We had a rhino born here not too long ago as a result of artificial insemination. Now, that I understand takes the fun out of it for a lot of the animals, but in reality, it's a very effective way to keep a good diluted gene pool without risking the animals, getting sick or hurt during transport. And the other thing is, misconception is, you're going to put them together and they're going to like each other. I don't know if Dan's going to like Val or vice versa. They could get next to each other and they may hate each other. So we might not get reproduction there. But it's a chance we got to take.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Ron. Like, how do you even know that Dan the rhino is interested, or Dan the hippo is interested in a female hippo, for example?
Generally speaking, Dan is always interested. It's the female that generally is more picky.
Hell yeah.
In the animal world, guys, and listen, if you guys are really happy in your own relationships, you know this, it's in the human world too. The females select. The females select the male they want to be with. The male usually is like, give me a donut. I don't care. Okay. They're kind of single-minded after something.
Yeah, a donut to have sex with. That's what he's saying. Yes, that's exactly right.
I'm just trying to throw an analogy out there that generally males tend to be much more focused on the physical part of sex. Females tend to be much more selective in the mate because they are the ones that usually end up raising the offspring, and they want to make sure they have healthy offspring.
I could totally see Dan LeBatard and the hippo being more interested in just the donut.
Hey, Ron, you've been referring to the female hippo as Val, but what is the actual name of the female hippo?
I don't know. I'm going to have to check on that. I just know her as a number in the stud book right now.
Wow. Is she wearing red lipstick like trying to present herself?
Dan LeBatard, the hippo, has a number in a stud book. Look at that.
Yes.
Look at you.
Congrats.
He's a player.
Is it a little black book?
Amin, you got a question for Ron Magill?
Ron, I was watching a nature show the other day, and they were talking about river dolphins. Is that a thing that's been around for a long time and been known that there are some freshwater dolphins?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was with those freshwater dolphins in the Amazon. They're pink. They're pink dolphins, and they actually have vestigial eyes. Their eyes are hardly functional in a sense because they're murky. The water's so murky there because of the tannins in the Amazon River that they depend much more on the echolocation than they do on the eyesight. But they're a really unique animal. If I'm sure Stugotz has already Googled it. They have a very long, very thin snout and a very big bulbous head, and they have this wonderful pink coloration to them. They're the pink river dolphins of the Amazon. They're fantastic.
Ron, I read that there's a 1 or 2 year old penguin named Pingu who wandered from its home in Antarctica and wound up on a rocky New Zealand beach almost 2,000 miles away. How often does that kind of thing happen in the wild?
Not terribly often, but I've heard it happening. You know, we all here in Florida, in South Florida, we get a lot of birds that were way off their migration route. You know, they get blown off by a storm, they get off direction, and this is where they land. And the same thing happens with penguins. You know, if they get blown off in a storm, a current takes them the wrong way, they'll pick up the current and they'll land where they land. Again, it's not common, but it's not unheard of by any stretch of the imagination. We've heard of animals, not just birds, but other animals too, that get caught on currents, you know, caught on debris in the ocean and float to another place and establish populations there.
What is Tony roaring with laughter about?
Dad, what was the name of that penguin?
Pingu. P-I-N-G-U.
Yeah, I knew it when he said it. I said,
That's-
"Oh, well, that's pretty close."
You don't
That's
know what
bad.
you're saying.
That
You don't
that
know what
might
you're
not
saying.
should have. Yeah, that shouldn't have
That's
been
bad
said.
for my Hispanic listeners.
You don't know what you're saying, Greg.
I mean, it's P-I-N-G-U. I'm looking at it
Yeah.
right here.
Let's all sing
helping.
it. P-I-N-G-U.
P-I-N-G-U, and Pingu was his name.
Tony
Guys are
was
killing me.
Tony
Guys are
was
killing me.
roaring with laughter as soon as Greg Cote said that, with no knowledge whatsoever of what it is he was saying. Chris, you didn't know either, right? You were informed by the Latin speakers.
I mean,
back then?
I know that, you know, I kind of knew that it sounded something like that.
You okay?
He's just laughing.
Oh, no. This is not a good one. Get it out. Get it out.
Edit that out.
You sound maternal there, Stugotz. That's very nice of you.
I care about Greg.
Ron, which animal sleeps the least?
Which animal sleeps the least? You know, are you talking about, you know, mammals, big vertebrate animals? I would think. I don't know. I think like giraffe and elephants, they sleep in little tiny spurts, so they don't sleep extensive periods of time. But I don't know cumulatively how much they're actually sleeping.
How about sharks? Can you explain? I know you've explained parts of this to us, the turning off of part of the brain, but it's hard to imagine fish sleeping.
No, fish do sleep, and some sharks have more of a challenge because some sharks need to have water constantly flowing through their gills to be able to get enough oxygen. But sharks adapt by finding places where they get actually current that will actually run that water through their gills without them actually having to swim, so they can rest that way. Listen, nature's incredible the way it adapts. You know, people say, oh, well, a shark must never sleep because it needs to always have water moving, so it's got to be swimming. No, a shark will find sometimes where there's certain current that the current itself will do the work, so the shark can be immobile for periods of time, getting the rest that it needs.
Ron, I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, Jane Pauley. It's my favorite show. And she was
One
talking.
of my favorites too, buddy.
I love it.
They did a feature on aging and how the tortoise can live till it's 150 years old simply because it moves slowly. It takes things slowly, not a ton of stress. I'm wondering, is there something to that, A? And B, what is the oldest animal in the animal kingdom?
Well, the oldest animal that we know of in the animal kingdom, I believe, is the Greenland shark. And it's believed to get to be 300 years old. Wow. Look it up, Stugotz. I'm sure you always double fact check me on this stuff, but the Greenland shark, I believe, is the oldest. Other than that, it is a tortoise. I believe it was over 150 years old. Tortoises, generally speaking, are the oldest land vertebrates on Earth. They can live over 150 years. And there is something to be said about, you know, just taking things slowly. It's like, you know, people who eat slowly, it's a tortoise versus the hare type of mentality. Constant, but methodical, yet slow, relaxed is what's going to give you a longevity that you're looking for.
You have a couple of very old turtles at the zoo, do you not?
We do. We have Goliath, who's one of my favorites. He's approximately 100 years old, 525 pounds. You personally met him out here, Dan, and you know, he's one of the few animals that I have worked with here the entire 40 plus years that I've been here. So is Goliath.
You said that turtle is one of your favorites. Who's your least favorite at the zoo?
My least favorite at the zoo. You know, this is going to sound terrible. It's not that I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of camels because camels have just some bad habits.
They spit a lot, right?
Yeah, they're assholes.
Oh, they also urinate all over themselves, and they take their tail and they flash it all over the place when they're urinating. They'll take their tail between their legs and they'll splash you with the urine, and it's just an awful smell. It's horrible. So, and they do this sound, you know, where they have a soft palate in their mouth when they get agitated or excited. They make a sound that kind of goes, and this thing comes out of the side of their mouth. It looks like they're puking out their guts, and it stinks wretched. It's just not a very attractive animal. And having said that, they have been incredible beasts of burden for humankind for centuries, if not millennium. So they're a wonderful animal, an incredible animal, just not one of my favorite animals. Not something I'd want to live with in a garage for a while.
Splash. Guillermo, put it on the poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Are camels assholes? Yes or no?
Oh, God, I'd say that, Dan.
Well, you did.
No,
Putting
you
words in my
sorta
mouth.
did.
I'm not saying
Insinuated it.
You really
Greg
did.
Cote
Bless
said
America.
it. Greg Cote said it. You didn't say it, Ron.
that. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank
Ron
you, Dan.
implied it.
And Ron, I will tell you, I looked up the Greenland shark. I mean, that thing looks amazing for 300 years old. It's a young 300 years old. It is.
The National Ocean Service says they can. The National Ocean Service says they can live to be over 500 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know how they document that. See, because we have never tagged a Greenland shark to say, okay, we've tagged it now, and then 500 years later, it's still alive. How do you really document that? I'm going to go with the 300 years, which is still mind blowing. And hopefully, all the listeners have learned something. And probably most listeners have never heard of the Greenland shark. But this is an incredible animal that can live for centuries.
But Ron, if you're willing to believe and buy in on 300 years old, I mean, what's the next step to 500 years old besides 200 years and 2 centuries?
Okay, Stugotz.
He did realize that as soon as he did the math on it.
Well, I mean, if you're willing, if you're going to sit here and tell me it's 300 years old, what's the big leap to
Yeah,
500 years
exactly.
old? I mean, come on.
That's right.
Why is one
I'll
more
tell you what,
ridiculous?
Stugotz.
Yeah.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
5'8" on a good day.
Okay, I'm 6'6".
Right.
If we stand next to each other, is it going to be a big difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, big, huge difference, right?
Yep.
So nobody's going to say, well, what's the big leap? I'll pick this guy to play on my basketball team. He's 5'8". What's the big leap to 6'6"? What's the big difference? What's the difference? What's the big leap there?
So in
It's a huge leap,
1700,
Stugotz.
But-
It's huge.
But you're saying no one knows, so you're buying in on 300, yet you're not willing to buy in on it living till 500 years or 1,000 years. I
no
mean,
one
who
tagged
knows?
these fish in 1721, Ron.
I say I'm more willing to buy into the 300 than I am into the 500.
Okay.
The National Ocean Service
By the
uses
500.
carbon dating to figure out the ages of these sharks.
Wow.
And they have given a range of from between 272 and 512 years.
So there you go. See, guys, what you learn from me here is that I tend to always go onto the conservative edge. I think 300 or 272
Right.
is wow enough to not have to go to 500. People who like to exaggerate things, there's no need to do it. 272 is mind-blowing enough.
Yeah, but
Why
the wow factor is everything. 512 just sounds
You're,
better.
you're
Yeah,
talking
much
to the,
better.
you're talking to the wrong person, Ron, when you say to Stugotz, hey, you don't need to exaggerate things. Yes, he does. Yeah, he's got a need for it the same way.
1,012.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. What does Stugotz need more, oxygen or exaggerating things? Billy, what do you have for Ron Magill?
That was it.
Okay, very good. See you later, Ron. Good talking to you. Thank you,
Have a good
sir.
one, guys. We'll see you later. Take
See you,
care.
Ron.
Everyone listening to this does realize, right? We are right smack dab in the middle of seismic tectonic shift in college sports. We're right in the middle of it. This has not happened where you get bang, bang one weekend. Whoa, Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly, didn't see either of those things coming. And it's because the money in that sport is shifting. It's around the SEC, and Notre Dame's not big enough for you when college football and this kind of money comes calling. You can make the face that you're making, Jessica, but that's what just happened yesterday.
It's not because they're not big enough for him. He was there for 11 years. It was clearly big enough for him for 11 years.
When he was a lesser candidate than he is now, when you're going to the top of the...
He had Eagles head coach rumors like 5 years ago.
Jessica,
It's okay, Jess.
you can keep
Not
doing
mad.
this.
I'm not.
It's okay.
Do not
All
write
right,
in the paper
fine.
that I was
Okay,
mad.
don't. That's
Angry.
fine.
But that's the shift. The shift is that it's gotten bigger. Like
You're-
the LSU job has gotten bigger.
You're in the middle of this
You're not
commerce
small.
intersection, and
You're
you're
just massive.
what had just happened is somebody in the SEC came calling for Brian Kelly, and Notre Dame's holier-than-thou thing, led by Brian Kelly, just got bought by the SEC. Just got bought. And Lincoln Riley was like, you know what? Don't want to go do that with Oklahoma. in SEC. I'm coveted. I can work anywhere.
You think it's
Anywhere.
that?
I think those
you've
are-
mentioned that a couple of times. I don't want to go to the SEC, and I don't think he's afraid of that. Here's what it is: $110 million. Use her PJ. You and your family get to live in LA. Does that sound cool?
It is easier, Mike. It's an easier path as a coach to be in the Pac-12 than it is in the SEC.
Yeah,
to get to the
I think
playoffs,
it's-
Mike.
But Brian Kelly just took a harder path, and
He
I don't
did.
think
Yes.
it's because he's got a tougher jib.
No, but
Right.
what I would say to you is he took a tougher path to winning, big winning. What he didn't take a tougher path to was great players. It all just got easier for him because he doesn't have to apply the same academic standard. He could just go hire recruiters. He got the success that people get late in life when you've had a lot of accomplishments. Go get more money for doing less. For doing less. You could go to LSU. The pressure's going to be higher. The stakes are going to be higher, but you're going to be able to get the players that you want and not worry about the admissions office coming in here and saying you need a 1200 SAT. Just go make Joe Burrow's team. Go ahead. LSU has told you by just giving Orgeron $17 million to go the hell away. We will sell our soul to get to the top of the most commercial conference that there is in minor league professional sports. And now Brian Kelly, these guys are going to start lining up for these deli jobs after we've spent this much time celebrating the CEO as leader. And it's not being acknowledged that you're going to get players in the SEC. Look at how quickly it happened for Kiffin and Leach. Like, if the smart coaches start going there, they're going to have the advantages of money and recruiting. Brian Kelly was smart to get there before others. That's a great job. And they can get all the players that they want, and he can now work less. It's less hard. Notre Dame makes it harder in their own admissions office with their own standards. They make it harder than LSU does.
Work less, get paid more. That's the dream.
I think you can make that argument also the other way, though, which is that now he's coaching against Nick Saban, Lane Kiffin.
But he cashes
Jimbo
in.
Fisher.
He
Yes,
wins right
I
now.
agree,
But he won today. It doesn't matter what happens now.
I just think that if you're going to make the argument that he's going to make more money to work less hard because the recruiting got easier, I think you should also maybe admit that, like, the coaching and the expectations in LSU, like, not that they're not big around Notre Dame, but LSU is going to be very, very hard in that conference.
Yeah, if success and titles is what he cared about, I think he probably it's easier to win a title at LSU because I have very recent history to suggest not very good coaches have actually done it over there. But I do think that this MASH unit of power programs in the SEC, you see what happened at Florida this year? You see what happened at Auburn? You see what's been happening to Tennessee? I think that's going to be the norm. People are going to get really frustrated because they've gone from programs that maybe lose 1-2 times a year to now all of a sudden Oklahoma's going to go to 3, possibly 4 losses a year just because the competition. I don't think they really know what they're getting into by this conference expansion. I think people like Lincoln Riley have the right idea. It's why I actually think a place like Miami in the Coastal Division has some appeal, because if you care about success, titles, getting yourself to the point that you can get the contract that Brian Kelly eventually got, because yeah, sure, Texas, LSU, Bama, they're all going to be there with the money eventually because they're going to have 3 lost seasons when this whole thing plays out.
The recruits lining up for Brian Kelly to go to Baton Rouge are the ones that Alabama and Georgia don't get. I mean, he's starting off in third place, arguably a distant third place in his league. So he's making a great move financially. Is he making a great move in terms of being able to get to the CFP top 4 every year? I don't know. That's questionable.
The only thing I'll disagree with you there is that, like, Louisiana itself, in-state recruiting there is huge. And a lot of those, like, that part, the in-state recruiting in Louisiana are people that Brian Kelly is now going to be able to get. And it's just, like, built into your backyard there. Like, the Louisiana high school football system is
Well, he has to get
ton
the
of
right guys
recruits.
on staff, though.
Well, but
Right, but
I
it's,
feel
it's
like
not like Indiana where there's, like, 1 5-star a year or 2. Like, it's a completely different recruiting scene. In
Am I
Louisiana.
looking at this wrong when I'm marveling at you guys obsessing on the micro and I'm just flabbergasted by the macro? This whole game just changed. These guys, what the amount of money that we're talking about for these CEOs, the game in the last 2 days has produced 2 stories that the last 20 years haven't provided, where a coach that was coveted, no one saw him changing leadership spots because Everything's different now that we're talking about the business of the SEC and who's competing for what and who's willing to sacrifice morals. You guys are talking about this individual region stuff. I'm looking at the entire sport and saying, wait a minute, if Mel Tucker's getting $95 million and he just got swamped by Ohio State immediately after that contract was signed, what else is coming next? When everyone realizes that Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly are just first to this trough. They're the first ones to notice, wait a minute, I could use one of these schools and dwarf Saban's salary. Well, you can't because contractually.
He gets a raise.
Because his contract.
Saban is loving it.
He's just waiting to see what happens at Oklahoma in case they open up coffers.
Well, I thought Jack Swarbrick just gave a press conference, and I thought the most interesting question was, like, there have been 2 hires, like you said, in the last 2 days that have had just, like, seismic shifts in college football and hiring and coaching, blah, blah, blah. And his answer, which was, I think, the only interesting answer he gave during the press conference, was that, like, I haven't really had time to let it all sink in, like what's happened the last couple of days in college athletics, but, you know, you wonder if a university is the right place for this type of thing to take place. Like, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the exact quote, but I think that it's just what we talked about with Skipper over the summer when Oklahoma and Texas moved to the SEC, which is that the college football machine is getting farther and farther away from needing universities to be the place where they exist. And will this be the case in 10 years? Will there be a super league? Like, it seems like that's where it's
the part that I find fascinating over the last 2 years is it took a pandemic to unspool the thread of pay a player. Oh, shit. It's all business. Now business is on. Pay players? Okay, never mind about it. Portals, transfer portals. Okay, we could start dismantling this whole idea of amateurism step by step. And of course, the guys who are going to get paid the most in this system, of course, are going to be the Brian Kellys and the CEO types who are leaders.
Brian Kelly was sitting in someone's living room recruiting a kid to Notre Dame when the news broke that he was going to LSU. I mean, it's a business.
It's rarely the transactions, Jessica. The transactions are rarely this bold and brazen. Hey, LSU comes calling. Notre Dame's holier than thou. Can we have what you guys have? And he's like, yep. Suitcase of cash, I'm out the door. Never mind whatever I give voice to of being like South Bend in my heart or a Michigan man. Jim Harbaugh's out here.
I love what he's doing. Jim Harbaugh is winning the day.
Jim Harbaugh is doing the thing that is that wasn't quaint 3 days ago, but now that Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly have done what they've done, listen to what Jim Harbaugh is doing.
So Harbaugh is saying, hey, you want to leave Notre Dame and go there? You want to leave Oklahoma and go there? Well, here's what I'm going to do. Any bonuses I make this year by being the Michigan head football coach, I am going to give them to workers at the University of Michigan who lost money during COVID. I mean,
how about that? Yes,
he wins.
Michigan man.
I'm a Michigan man.
I'm a Michigan man.
We talk about holier than thou, like Jim Harbaugh. That's all. Really? Like, it's a great thing that he did.
Nice thing that he's doing.
But I'm saying like that,
and he's staying for now.
Michigan got so much great. Like, for some reason, Michigan had to suck against Ohio State for 5 years for people to be all of a sudden like, wow, congrats to Jim Harbaugh on beating Ohio State. It's Michigan. Like, they're blue blood. Why is everyone suddenly like, wow, good job, Michigan. Like, you did it.
Because they had the enormous win of the weekend.
That's what I'm mad about.
Yeah.
That's what
I'm mad about Michigan.
Did you guys know that Washington hired a head football coach?
Florida hired a head football coach this weekend.
I found out that yesterday Washington hired a football coach this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They hired the Fresno State coach.
Oh.
I guess that's an all right hire.
Yeah.
Huh.
It could be the best of the hires.
How do you think the Lincoln Riley thing came about, by the way? Because Carson Palmer went public with names and it was a big job, but Lincoln Riley was never linked to that. And I saw an interesting quote from the AD over at USC. When we started this whole thing, it was not our intention to set out and make a move that would change college football with one of the biggest power plays ever. Do you think Lincoln Riley's agent just called and said, hey, what's up? Because that's the way that this kind of feels to me with how quick it broke. And hey, if you guys want Lincoln Riley, we'll need this, this, and this. You're actually in this game.
Lincoln Riley's agent knows in ways that we can't possibly, not only what he wants from his life in every respect, that's what the guy is paid 10% to do, but he's also paid to know what it is that makes Lincoln Riley unhappy at work that we don't know about. And I don't know what would be appealing about
Or at home.
Or at home, correct.
Right. Where do you want to live?
The agent knows those things, and we might never. The thing about the last couple of days that I don't know how much more this is going to happen, but we've seen in basketball the way that the transaction infatuates an audience and makes this stuff super addictive. We've seen with fantasy sports the way that we get proprietary about the transactions, and we're doing fantasy sports bigger than it's ever been, and it's a pretty dumb exercise given that the guys that you liked, you have no way of predicting whether Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry or any of these guys or McCaffrey or all these guys who are hurt now, who are killing you in these fantasy leagues because they're hurt. You have no way of being able to be good at that. But because this is all something that is soap opera and transaction related, college football, the last couple of days, has given us this best thing that we like for content fodder, a surprise that represents huge change and makes one program instantaneously win the day for $15 million a year, while another program searches for its new leader. The coaches is the transaction pieces, the big name coaches. That's a way that you get people talking about college football on a Tuesday, that generally it gets swamped by Sunday's football games in the pros and even last night's Washington-Seattle game.
Dan, they were so seismic, especially Lincoln Riley. We were talking about it on Sunday and Monday. Like the NFL, you're right, usually engulfs those stories. Not this one.
I'm saying that this is how college football becomes more and more professional, bigger and bigger. It is, Stugotz, college football as a passion entity and a regional pride is if football professionally wins the day across sports, like college football is up there with all of the major sports, interest, merch, money, and you're just seeing now that the money's actually being dispersed all over the place. Now you're seeing it flow, and people aren't talking about lacrosse and Title IX. It's just like, how do I get Brian Kelly? What, $15 million a year? No problem. Like, I can't believe that Saban's agent was smart enough to get the contract clause of, you will make me the highest paid coach no matter how crazy this shit gets. That's how it's written in the contract. It's written in Saban's contract. No matter how crazy this shit gets, Saban gets $1 more than everybody. Like
he deserves it.
That's a good agent. That's an agent who's earned his 10%. Like, what a contract clause. Wait a minute, Mel Tucker's making how much? I'm Nick bleeping Saban. That's what just happened the last couple of days. It's nuts, and it's commerce spilling wild over what was amateurism 2 years ago. The first thread was the pandemic and players being like, hey, why aren't we the guy at Lincoln Riley's conference? Why aren't you paying us? Why in USC players, why aren't you paying us? We're not playing until you pay us. And then that thread, one of the great sports injustices of our lifetime, the players not being paid, has opened up the Wild West of commerce, of this is going to be bought and sold now. The illusion of amateurism. Like, it's a giant myth wrapped in the dollar, like a giant myth. And now the coaches are cashing in on the dollars.
And athletes still aren't paid. I think that people think that because name and license is a thing now and you can make money, that it means that the university's money or the TV rights that the players are generating goes back to their pockets. And that's not the case. And that's why, when you think about it, college football is really gross. And seeing these numbers thrown out there for Mel Tucker, for Brian Kelly, for Lincoln Riley, for any of these top coaches.
For Hugh Freeze at Liberty. Hugh Freeze, who, everything he did
on
wrong
the move, by the way.
made Mississippi matter. Yes, put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is Hugh Freeze on the move, even though he just signed a contract for $4 million a year?
On the lamb is more like it.
That just increases the buyout. I mean, Manny Diaz was a Temple coach for 12 hours. That just increases their buyout.
And maybe again.
$4.5 million. That was a big investment from a school like Liberty. That's what Manny Diaz makes out here. A few weeks ago, there was a conversation when Mike Tomlin was linked with the USC job. Isn't it offensive that Mike Tomlin would be linked with the USC job? He's a successful NFL head coach. Does the last 2 days kind of puncture that? I saw that Brian Kelly is making more than 26 of the 32 NFL head coaches. Jess is shaking her head no. And I will tell you, direct quote from Brian Kelly, I think Mike Tomlin had it right.
Yeah, that was a couple of months ago.
But
Yeah.
I still think no. I think Mike Tomlin is an NFL coach. Brian Kelly is a college coach.
But like
I think
Cliff,
Brian
but
Kelly
like,
left.
They're
but
all
like
the
Cliff
reasons that we
Kingsbury's
said-
name was thrown out the second that Oklahoma came available.
Yeah, because he probably wants a raise. Like all the
Okay,
all the
I
reasons
understand,
that
I
all
understand,
the
but in
reasons that we said
theory,
the Brian
that's part of
Kelly
Chris's
thing
point,
wasn't
though.
okay.
It's the coach of a 9-2 NFL team being linked with a college job. Like, and I know it's agent posturing, but it's not far-fetched because these are very good jobs now.
I agree with that, but I think all the reasons a few weeks ago why we said that was far-fetched are still the case.
I would say that this has been a good argument my entire lifetime. The security of, do you want a regional job or do you want to test your ego in the pros and need to test your ego against the best? Greg Cote has seen this happen with Jimmy Johnson, who had his regrets about ever leaving, but knew himself well enough to say, my ego required for me to test challenges in the pros. But right now, if you tell me, given what my sensibilities are about what success looks like, what freedom looks like, I'd rather have a college job. I'd rather be Bobby Bowden, have the ability to have 10 years than give me the pressure of all these guys in the pros where Mike Tomlin's about to get stripped down naked when he doesn't have a quarterback. Like, he's going to keep trying to do things over the next couple of years, but he could last longer in college sports. That said, the pressure is now getting to college sports where Harbaugh getting 6 years is a bit Harbaugh getting 6 years is an exercise in patience because it's less comfortable in college than it used to be. But the more you increase the stakes and the money in college, the more you're going to make it the same thing that it is in the pros. But I think at this point, if you tell me, wait a minute, I could go to LSU and have not only no salary cap, but total real control over my players where they're helpless. They can't do anything. I've got total control over everything that's happening here. It's not going to be people who are going up against my discipline the way it will be in the pros. Urban Meyer realizing, oh, my shit don't work in the pros.
They can't transfer, though, the players.
Yeah.
The players can leave the
That's
school.
huge.
Yes, they can transfer, but still, you don't have a salary cap and you have control over who you're getting. There's not a general manager there bothering you. You're running the franchise for a region and you're playing games on Saturday that feel an awful lot like the ones on Sunday. And you're being paid more than 26 of the 32 NFL coaches. Like, to me, the college job has always been just about as desirable as the pro job.
Right.
And now it's more so than it used to be.
The gap is closed. It's the closest that it's ever been, where if you're a college coach, you can use the NFL as leverage. If you're an NFL coach, you can use the college game as leverage. So it's the closest it's ever been, Dan. Can you imagine what a school would pay for Jimmy Johnson right now? Like, can you imagine?
Not Jimmy Johnson.
Yes,
not Jimmy Johnson.
Oh,
not
yes,
at
they would.
78.
No,
No,
78.
no, not
Jimmy
now.
Are you saying
No.
Jimmy
God.
Johnson today?
No, not now.
Yeah,
No.
right now.
No, not now.
I mean,
Oh,
10,
I would
10
pay
years
him.
ago, yes.
And the Steelers
pay
should
him
sign
today.
Terry Bradshaw.
What are you doing with Jimmy, man? He's a
Improvement.
young 78. I told you that.
He
I mean,
is.
Bob Stoops is coaching.
Yeah.
I love that. The Barry Alvarez plan of just give me the bonuses and the Bob Stoops deal of just be Oklahoma ambassador. And
How great was
it's
that?
so
It's
great.
great.
Bob Stoops coming in. It's like, and no matter how unseemly college football or college sports are, or just the commercialization in general of amateurism is, I think all of us were like, yeah, that's right. Bob Stoops should be the interim coach there. They've got
Feels
a
right.
resident legend over there. Just have him come in and coach a
Right.
bowl game.
Best available Stoops,
And Barry Alvarez should be the Notre Dame interim head coach.
maybe.
I'm not even sure he's the best
Debatable.
available Stoops
I
at
don't
the
like what
moment.
you're
I
doing
don't
to
think
Jimmy
that's
there, where
true.
Jimmy
Yeah.
can't get it done at 78. I mean, Coach K is 75. He's still coaching.
What,
He's
what
retiring. And he's-
So what?
He's young.
Jimmy's been retired for 20 years. He's relaxed. He's ready to go.
What
He
is
is.
the argument? I just let me
Stand and
understand.
ready.
I think Notre Dame or Oklahoma would pay Jimmy Johnson whatever he wants, and Nick Saban would love that to come back and be their head coach.
Please,
That's it.
we're not entertaining his Jimmy Johnson thing, are we? Seriously?
Well, we were having a different conversation. We moved on, and then
still
he
on
turned
it?
at me
I
and
wanna see
doubled
Jimmy
down.
coaching us.
He's yelling at me when you guys are the one who objected to the absurdity of a 70-year-old Jimmy Johnson signing a 10-year contract for $15 million a year.
Well, 60-year-old Brian Kelly just signed a 10-year contract. Do we really think he's going to coach all 10 years? Like, just
Why
because
is
they're
he pumping
making
his
more
fist like
money,
this? Jimmy Johnson hasn't coached in 20 years. Why
Yeah,
are you
I don't know.
pumping your fist?
I'm
Good time
ignoring
to
the
jump
Jimmy
back in.
Johnson thing.
Fresh.
But
Yeah.
Canned and ready.
just because they're making more money doesn't mean that there's more job
Look who
security.
made
in
an
college
appearance
football.
again. I'm sorry, Jesse.
No, there's a
Look-
lot. There's a lot less. Although, look at what's happening with Matt Rule. Matt Rule, do you think he has the most job security right now? But what Matt Rule did, and by going to the NFL, so what if he flames out? He still has his resume that says he'll be a success in college football. So he just got himself to a different pay grade.
Right, but that's Matt Rule's not Mike Tomlin. Like I'm still on the Mike Tomlin thing. Like I think Mike, maybe if you're a Joe Judge or like just someone who hasn't been very successful in the NFL, like going back to college, not going to be a huge step down
like
for you.
Like Petrino looked at it as a step up. I think the problem in all of it is like I work off the assumption that the pros is still the pros and the top of the industry, but I don't know what kind of money they make. I do know that their job security is a lot worse than it would be in college, but I don't know what job security in the SEC is going to be when Dan Mullen has a bad season. There are going to be a hell of a lot more Dan Mullins than Nick Sabans in the new version of the SEC. So I don't necessarily have all the data. It does seem like Lincoln Riley's got a pretty sweet gig, though.
I want to attack a couple of things that have happened during the course of this segment. One of them, Chris Cote, is your father, I believe, did not get enough credit for being the generational king patriarch of combining two words when he took Michigan man and made it Mishaman when
Thank
it
you.
came to Jim Harbaugh. That did not
Well
go
done.
that did not go unnoticed. Also not going unnoticed is that Billy Gill, who doesn't appear to have any interest today in anything other than causing riots and being in the middle of riots, has contributed only a muffled sound from behind a mask in agreement to what? I want to know what you were specifically agreeing to. It's the only sound I've heard you make this segment.
It was the Jimmy Johnson thing, and Greg and I both at the same time said he's fresh.
No one's fresher.
Right. Hello.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Do you think of freshness when you think of 78 years old? Bimal has arrived in the room. Bimal is the COO of Meadowlark Media. He has lost at the grid of death, and he selected, I guess, the punishment. I don't know why he would do this, of shaving Greg Cote's back. So we are all in position now in a very cramped studio for Bimal to begin doing that. But we've asked something dangerous of Greg Cote. This is very hard whenever we do it. It involves multitasking and thinking of someone other than himself. He's got one microphone for him and Bimal. He is only interested right now, even though we are doing the audio portion of this, of grinning maniacally into the camera on the Zoom. So we
Not
are
even the camera that he needs to be looking.
yeah, we are relying into the wrong camera. This was so funny before we even started this. Chris Cote, you were embarrassed by your dad. Mike Ryan was trying to give him instructions on how he can help Bimal. Your father thought the entire time, while not listening to Mike Ryan on the instructions for this, how do I promote my podcast?
He was talking for like 45 seconds, giving my dad information that he needed to do to help produce this segment. And my dad's just doing the whole time a little dance, pointing at the mic. And I'm just like, I know my dad. I'm like, he's not listening to anything Mike's saying. And then right now, before we start, he's like, what do you guys need from me? And it was just, I wanted to jump through this
Who needs me?
soundproof
Who
glass
needs
and
me?
punch him.
In
Mate.
Greg's defense, all he
Yep,
has to
thank
do is
you,
get
Billy.
his back shaved.
That's
I mean,
it.
it's
Thank
not
you, Billy.
rocket
That should
science.
be his only responsibility this segment. But
And
I
thank
do,
you for that, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Greg. But I do have confidence in Greg Cote. He is going to nail this. He heard every word Mike Ryan said to him, and Greg Cote is going to produce the hell out of this segment.
It wasn't that many words. It just makes sure that the microphone that you use it and Bimal use it at the correct time. But the problem we've already run into, he's got his headset on. He's going to have trouble getting his shirt off and talking into the microphone. So right now you're wearing a shirt, which is going to make it very hard for Bimal to both describe your back to the audience and shave your back.
Right. You want the shirt off?
Well,
How are we going to
he's
do
gotta
this
shave your
without the
back.
shirt
Okay, but
off?
there was some question whether the whole shirt comes off or whether we just raise the back. That's what I need to
Well,
know.
what would you prefer? It doesn't matter as long as he can shave your back. Like you'd feel more comfortable. It's vulnerable to be totally shirtless. Would you
It
prefer?
doesn't bother me.
Okay, well then let's go totally
hang on.
shirtless. That
All
would be
right.
preferable.
All right.
here.
We've done
Check out this
before.
belly
Baby
button.
got back.
It
Wow,
may
we
be
get
awkward,
it
but
all.
show me your belly button.
Hold on.
We also have
There
some
it
sort.
is.
We also
There it
have,
is.
we also have some sort of apron that you would wear to get your hair cut. A bar.
on the floor just to be
Do you have back hair? I mean,
I don't think so. No.
Okay,
I
well,
haven't seen my back in
should
40
ask
years.
Bimal.
This is.
He took his shirt off.
This looks so unpleasant.
I mean, we've just started the unpleasant, my friend. Can you give Bimal the microphone, please, so that he can describe what it is that he's seeing? You need to put your headset on, Greg, so you
yeah,
can
hang
hear
on.
the
Very
radio
pink.
show.
Very pink.
He is very pink. Yes, very comfortable with his shirtlessness.
Thank you. This is
he
where
should be. He looks great.
This is visually funny.
Poor Bimal.
For those following along at home, this is only number 6 on the top 10 HR violations today.
All right, so Bimal, we're going to need you just to lean into the microphone, which of course doesn't reach over there because that's how we do things around here.
I'm going to be getting very close to Greg shirtless.
How much hair is back there? How much do you have to shave? How are you feeling right now about what you've chosen from the bucket of death? I'd like to do this as a bit of a sideline interview.
Yeah, this is the first for me, and this is probably the peak of my career of where
You're
I
welcome.
ascended to. And of all the backs I've shaved, this is. It's
another one.
I had to
Bimal's
describe
rattled.
the terrain for the listener.
Does he want gloves?
Yeah, do you
Bimal,
need
do you
gloves?
like
Do you
that
need anything?
I
sweatshirt?
think this is why you get vaccinated, people. So this is
Okay, he's
good.
vaccinated and he's
So-
ready to
and
go.
I'm gonna put my hand on your.
This
on
is
your
why
shoulder.
you get
So-
vaccinated.
Wow, cold
For
hands,
this
Bimal.
moment. yeah.
Pretty sure this is
Bimal's
not
hands
why
are
you
like
get
ice.
vaccinated.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. This is why you get vaccinated, yes or no? All right, we are going to begin now. How much does he have to do? What do you imagine is back there, Greg, since you haven't seen back there in a very
He
long
said
time?
40 years. I mean,
Yeah.
Bimal's caressing his shoulder right now.
I'm just lucky I have a back. By the way, I feel exposed. You know what I could use right now? A Walter Mercado cape. If we had one of those in the studio, I would totally be wearing it right
They're
now.
for sale, and Greg Cote has been trying to encourage Meadowlark Media to buy a $3,000 Walter
Where?
Mercado
We need that,
cape.
Dan.
so
Wait,
that
yeah,
he
no,
can-
where is that?
Dan, we need
Where
that.
is that, Greg? Because we'll put that on the bucket of death next round.
Put it on the
I'll
budget
approve
is
it.
more like it.
put it on Meadowlark's budget
That's
of
right.
a $3,000 Meadowlark Walter Mercado cape. All right, so where are we in the proceedings here? I do see hair. It's like fuzz. It's discussing fuzz.
Thank you.
It's a bit puffy. There's patches. There's
see it.
patches here.
All right.
But there's more terrain. There's some bumps. There's a bit of a constellation
Yeah.
with some freckles. But you've got clumps of hair. You got some here on the left shoulder, mid back, and on the right side here.
So you have to shave all of the hair. It's very unpleasant. How is the view from where you're sitting, Jessica? You're a combination of bemused and on the verge of vomit.
From where I'm sitting, I can't see the bottom half of Greg's body, so he just looks completely nude.
Thank you. Don't let your imagination run wild.
I want you to all imagine him with a foot on the sink, totally nude, manscaping.
Amin said he looks like a chicken breast.
An uncooked one. I got to get more sun, by the way.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. Does Greg Cote look like an uncooked chicken breast that needs to get more sun, by the way? Go ahead, Bimal. Have at the shaving. We need the audio payoff
Thank you,
of
Manscaped.
hearing the Manscaped razor.
Okay, here we go.
All right, we need you to turn
that
a little
razor
bit.
on
We
and-
need to get
yes.
private video of this. So you need to turn just a little bit, Greg Cote, so he can get at your back a little bit.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we
Okay,
go.
I'm doing left quadrant first here.
Okay.
Here we go.
This should be pretty easy. It's a lot of fuzz, a lot of peachy fuzz.
You might want to look down.
This is unpleasant.
So there are numbers of hairs falling on
There
the
is a lot of
Oh, man.
There's a few,
Those are long.
there's a few pimples that are probably about to pop.
Yeah.
It feels great, by the way.
Get that checked
It
out.
feels fantastic.
We're going to the right
Like
side.
you're getting a massage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels great.
A little warm
We're
too,
going to the
right?
right
Bimal is
shoulder.
very delicate. He's doing
I
a
wanna-
very
I
nice
wanna
job.
make sure I
Yeah.
don't hurt
A
anybody
very
here.
gentle manscaper. this is a HR violation because this has now become something mildly sensual.
This is all kinds of. My family will watch this soon.
After we do the back, we'll do the front.
Okay, right shoulder is now nice and smooth.
Greg Cote has never been happier. He's been waiting all his
Punishment. I mean,
A good rounded shoulder here.
He's being groomed. He's gonna get home and be the cleanest version. He's the cleanest version of himself.
The hairs are very
His
long.
father get shaven, all right?
They
So now
haven't been touched in 50 years.
we are going up the middle of the back now.
oh,
Especially
wow.
Okay.
when you contrast
Nice,
it with his
smooth
complexion.
Right up here.
It's kind of like, you ever see Bram Stoker's Dracula and like Dracula's hairy hands? Like that
Okay.
old Gary Oldman form?
I notice all the time in sports when a coach or someone catches me off guard with how hairy their arms or the back of their hands are. This
Also,
happens.
Greg has very little boobs. Boobs are little.
Bimal, is there enough back there to shave a Greg Cote Show podcast logo onto my back?
there is not, but
No?
now you can definitely, if you could write it out here easily. Now.
What percentage of this is done? Because this is some substantive
Greg
acreage.
leaning
Yeah,
forward
this is good. Now,
shirtless
the upper
is
shoulder, the upper back is done.
something.
It is going to be a little bit wild back here on the lower back.
That's okay. You're going to leave that alone?
He has to
There's
do
more here.
lower
Do you wanna
back
keep
too?
going?
He's got to get the entire
It's
back.
got to be the
shaved.
back.
Okay.
It's got to be.
Let's
It's
go
the
the entire
bucket of
back.
death for a
So
reason.
now
It's
we're going
feared.
We're
You got-
going into the.
I
Into
feel like this is
to the
more of a
left
punishment
side,
for Greg.
And
I'm enjoying it.
yeah, there's definitely.
I could fall asleep right now. It's
you've
like a
got-
nap.
You've got some terrain here. There's
Little
certainly
mood
some bumpy
music.
terrain, and there's some things here that I should wash my hands after.
Maybe do a biopsy while you're back
Okay,
there.
we're going low. We're going
going
low.
low,
Cracker
baby.
right
Here we
here.
go.
Oh, not too low.
Baby.
We're
boy.
going low, and we are riding all the way up.
Oh.
Baby!
Wait. Okay.
All right, it's almost over,
Almost- it's
everybody.
almost over,
Jessica's
Greg.
merely turned away
it's-
and maybe
it's-
throwing up in a bucket.
Gravity is doing its thing right now, from what I can tell.
This is pretty smooth.
It is pretty smooth
I
now.
gotta say,
It is. It's
it
like a
is-
billiard ball
It
back
is
there.
looking good. All
right, this is enough.
We should shine this up. And
It's the cue ball. If the cue ball were pink and gravity were doing bad things at bad
I
angles.
don't like my dad's face during this.
that
This is fantastic.
has got
Bimal has done this before. quite frankly.
this is certainly not one. I mean, this is up there in the top
All
5.
right, you get into the side now. Let's stick to the back.
Is Bimal at all
We're
He's
concerned?
one of the front.
Is Bimal at all concerned that inevitably, as Metal Art grows as a company, people are going to be Googling his name occasionally, and this will very
not blow
likely
the
be
hair?
the first response.
Bimal just blew the hair off the Manscapin razor.
Jesus.
Bill O'Brien is trending for the LSU job. Bill O'Brien trying to get back in the game. If everyone's giving away money, Bill O'Brien, who left in terrible disgrace in Houston, like just botched all of the collateral that he had earned working with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but he has stood next to Nick Saban for the last couple of years, and they get you back in the game quickly, Dano.
Not yet. Not that quickly.
Not when you can't score a touchdown against your rival last weekend.
That's got to be some sort of joke, but all the names are going to be recycled and rehashed now that there's money all over the place. I want to get to Billy's useless sound montage. We have not been able to do that yet, but in general, I have found Billy today to be a distracted anarchist, that he joins in on the riots and stuff, but
What do you mean?
I feel like the holidays are disorienting to you. And I believe that you're always thinking about other things during the holidays. And I heard you talking about decorations.
Oh, I'm in on holiday decorating this year. I'm in, Dan. Are you
Because
in?
you're a dad?
I think that might have something to do with it. I made sure to put the lights this weekend. I got some inflatables out front. I'm a little worried that they might get stolen, so trying to figure out that situation. Should I chain them to a tree? What should I do? Should I just let them go? I'm in, though.
Is this your first experience as an adult sort of decorating a house as a father? Is this you being
Yes.
an adult and creating your own family traditions? What kind of decorations are you talking about? Like a giant inflatable reindeer in your front yard or
Well,
what?
I didn't have a child last year, so it's my first year as a father for the holidays, and I want, nice pictures. I want the memories. Are you okay? What happened?
Greg, are we interrupting you?
Sorry.
You just exhaled and sighed in a way that
No,
suggested.
I mean, he did back up. It was very polite. I'm just
Thank
concerned.
you.
Yeah.
Lean back. Jack. Sorry.
It's okay.
Continue.
Is that Fat Joe and then Jack in the middle?
He doesn't know what Fat Joe is.
No.
The rapper?
Nice.
Wow.
Attaboy.
How about that? Look at that. Greg Cote.
Who do you take me for?
I bet you Greg could name at least 15 rappers.
We should
Damn
try
right.
this. You know what? I think this is a good game to play. Let's try to play this game. That's before
You going over or under on 15?
that one time, what was that song? Didn't you just out of nowhere start rhyming a Tupac song?
California Love.
Let's see if we can do this. I am going to pick the over here on Greg Cote, but I don't feel confident about it because I feel like it's going to be a lot of old rappers and then he's going to peter out.
That was a master class by Billy Gill in getting away from the thing he didn't want to talk about, which was his holiday decorations.
Well, no, tis
Yeah,
the
I noticed
season.
that.
No, guys, tis the season. We have plenty of time to get to that. But your top 15 rappers. Actually, you know what? Let's set the rules. It doesn't have to be your top 15. Just any 15.
Any 15.
Any 15.
Yeah.
All right. When are we doing this?
Right now.
Right now.
God.
15 rappers.
Okay.
When did you think we were doing it?
I
He's
thought
had a
I
rough
had time
day.
to prepare. I
Did
don't
you
know.
think it's time for the prepare? No, it's not about whether or not you could study and memorize 15 rappers. It's off the top of your head.
All right. I don't have a time limit, right?
Well, we've got a show to do. We've got, you can't just stall out.
We have 22 minutes before our next obligation. So if you could name 15 rappers in 22 minutes, we'll be fine.
Okay. Is somebody going to count?
Well, this is what
Well,
we're
you
going to
named
do.
Fat Joe already, so
We're not going to do this for
Fat Joe counts.
for
yeah.
400
that counts,
minutes.
right.
So should we do show and we're going to watch your hands. You can't pick a computer. You just name a rapper when one comes into your head in any of the silent spots that we have in the show. So we're not just sitting here staring
Okay,
at you
gotcha.
for the entire time that we're doing this.
Okay.
In the interim, though, I'd like to ask Billy Gill how he feels about his useless sound montage.
Little baby.
That is one, but I think you pronounced it incorrectly because it's got
Didn't I say little? I said little baby.
Okay, my bad. I'm
got
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry for questioning you.
Greg, if you go on a Lil's run, you're going to be
I'm
done
telling
in
you.
no time.
mm-hmm.
Tech 9. One of my favorites, by the way. Totally underrated.
Tech 9.
Where's Tech 9 on your list? One of your favorites?
Well, these are not ranked, are they?
No,
Yeah.
it's just an aside out of curiosity.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never done a ranking.
Okay, and he's
We'll
not
do
going
that
to
next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll tease to that. How do you feel about your useless sound montage, Billy?
It's we're done with it, so on to next week, I guess. I'm more excited about the rappers, honestly.
Baby Keene.
Wow.
Chance the Rapper.
It's
Eminem. Run DMC, the original, one of the originals.
Is that one of them, or are you going?
That's
Are you going with
a
all of them?
collection.
Yeah,
there?
you know.
You're on a hot streak right now.
you got
I know.
7.
7. I'm almost halfway.
Yeah, but now it gets tough because you've used up all of your famous old rappers. Now. Well, you
J. Cole.
Yeah.
All right, they're coming to me.
you also got Tupac, right? Like you're
No, I haven't yet.
Dan,
No, but I
You didn't say
Dan,
Tupac. What are you
Dan,
doing?
Dan.
What are you doing?
All right,
now
Tupac.
we need money
No,
on this.
No, we
That
need
doesn't
16
count.
now. We need
No,
16.
Tupac counts for
That
sure.
counts, but you need 16 now.
Tupac for sure. What?
No way that happened on purpose.
all right.
Oh, it totally did.
Let's play the useless sound montage while Greg Cote has some time to think, and I try to figure out who in this room
RZA,
is
the Jizza.
speaking in Greg Cote's ear, helping him out with some of these picks here.
We got a lot of work in front of us. We make no excuses, man. We seek no comfort. It is what it is, man. We stunk it up today.
I didn't ask Coach one time to come out because there's a Steeler way, and it's fighting to the end.
You know, when it's all said and done, you know, it's going to come back to the core basis of what the brand is.
That group of guys in that locker room right now, players and coaches, I'll put them up against anybody. I love them to death, and they're freaking warriors, man. They know how to win. They're not losers.
It's just a matter of, man, we got to learn how to win.
First, you got to learn how not to lose.
I mean, no one thought we were going to win this game. I mean, don't really blame you for how we played the last week, but we did, and you were wrong. So that felt good because I love you.
You can live in all these narratives, and they're all BS if you don't continue to grow and improve.
The only thing we know how to do is work, so we'll get back at it tomorrow.
Not a lot to be said. You know, you get your butt kicked. It happens sometimes.
We just got to keep doing what we're doing.
We control what we can control. I think Cam's worked really hard.
I think there's a lot that has gone on. The most important thing is the guys in the locker room staying together.
They won that mano-a-mano component of play much too often.
There's times where he gets covered and he's still open.
I think everything's always a little bit of everything.
I think teams do what they do.
Every play in football is its own play.
Every week is a one-game season that we got to look at it that way and find ways to win football games.
Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't.
Tip our caps to those guys. They played today and won and did the things that was required in a big game like this, and we didn't, to be quite honest with you.
It wasn't pretty the first 30, but it was real pretty the second 30.
The highs and lows of a game, the ebbs and flows of a game, I think our guys kind of withstood some adversity.
28 penalties, I don't know what the hell you want me to say. Ultimately, when you make that many mistakes against a good football team, it's going to come back and haunt you.
There is room for improvement in all three phases, which is always exciting.
I know that we have to come in tomorrow and we're going to meet and talk about it. To me, there's not a lot to talk about. We got our butt kicked, and it is what it is.
I'm just not going to live by judging men by wins and losses all the time. That's just how it is.
It's not like we don't all go to work and we're just punching in and punching out and we'll see what happens. We all want to win. We're playing to win.
We've got 11 games. We're guaranteed 17 right now. And so we've got to do a great job with the 6 remaining games that we have.
6 games to go, right in the mix. We got 6 games to go.
We got 6 left for sure. That's a lot of football, and this story isn't written yet. We've got the pen, and we've got to make sure that we do a great job of controlling what we can control.
There's still a lot of season left.
That's a tired Andy Dalton at the end right
He
there.
sounds bored.
Pop Smoke, R.I.P. Snoop Dogg, my favorite. Nate Dogg. How about that? Notorious B.I.G. That's it. That's all I got. Aren't they at 15 yet?
That's 4. That's 14.
You're
I
at
think.
11.
All right, little dark.
11.
Little dark with a U. Who?
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
According to Cole Kubelik of ACC Network, Georgia allowed 83 points this season. If you doubled that, they would still lead the nation in scoring defense. Clemson is second with 180 points allowed.
That is nuts,
Crazy.
Stugotz. Like that, you can make the argument that's the best college defense that we've ever seen. People will expect them to win a championship and everything else, but Mike Ryan's been telling you all season that they're throwing offensive linemen at the quarterback. They're throwing offensive linemen up in the air. They rarely do you see a defense that's that kind of dominant where you're overwhelmed, obviously, by their the combination of speed and strength. It's not, defense doesn't usually show up that overtly.
I'm starting to worry about, me saying the entire year, do it against Alabama. My fear is they're going to do it against Alabama. But Mike, is this the best defense you've seen in college football ever?
Yes, and I'm a Canes fan. So I'll tell you
You're
something.
saying yes, that's it.
This is the greatest college football defense I've ever
Stugotz,
seen.
there are games that
I know.
they're the over-under on, they're not going to allow a touchdown. That you're going, the way that you have to bet the total on the other team is under 7 points. That's just crazy.
Jordan Davis should be the Heisman Trophy winner. Or Nakobe Dean. I think in a year like this, where I think the betting favorite, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings, is Bryce Young, who I know 2 weeks ago had 500 yards of combined offense, and he's been really good. And the Alabama quarterback is always in contention for that, right? But if they lose to Georgia in the SEC title game, it's going to be because of that defense. You don't have a head and shoulders leading candidate. Why not give it to Jordan Davis? I wish he could give it to the entire defense, but Jordan Davis or Nakobe Dean, I think, deserve it more than say, you okay?
You all right, Greg?
You all right?
You okay?
The water went down the wrong pipe?
I apologize.
All right.
Don't apologize.
I know that, look, the thought of giving the Heisman Trophy to a defensive tackle, it startles a lot of folks. So I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think it should go to a Georgia defender. I really do.
Mike, if they don't win the national championship, is this fair to say that they might not have enough? The defense is great, okay? they might not have enough offense to beat a team like maybe, I don't know, Alabama.
Fair, like their closest game this season, they put up 10 points.
But wait a minute, not fair. What do you mean Alabama? Like we've seen Alabama play against other SEC teams that are just okay.
Right.
Auburn and Texas A&M and lose. We haven't seen anyone.
They beat Auburn.
Yeah, they beat Auburn.
They should have, though. They should have lost.
I think what he's suggesting is
my bad. Yes, but what
I'm worried
saying,
about Georgia's offense.
You're suggesting that if they get pulled into a rock fight and their offense and their quarterback Stetson Bennett needs to make a play, will they make a play? They haven't really been tested in that fashion yet.
The only way they lose is if their offense turns the ball over. If their offense has disaster plays, they're not going to lose because they're not going to successfully hide their offense and quarterback. They've done it all season. If Auburn can slow Bryce Young and Alabama, rest assured that Georgia presents a whole nother slew of problems that are historic in nature.
This is the best quarterback that they would have faced all year. I actually thought C.J. Stroud could have posed an interesting problem for the Georgia defense. I'm not above saying that. Look, their recent pace, it's crazy to think that they could keep that up. I got to think Alabama can move the ball some on them or at least do better than some of the recent competition has fared. But there is nothing so far this season that would suggest the Georgia defense would be the reason why they lose an SEC title game.
You guys don't feel like that Alabama game? The fact that Alabama has beaten Florida by 2.
Right.
Has,
at the Swamp.
A bounce. I mean, that doesn't mean anything
no,
at the Swamp this year.
At
the Swamp doesn't mean anything
You
this
just
year.
did this thing with Auburn. No, you just did this thing with Auburn where, listen, if they couldn't score against Auburn, they're not going to score against Georgia. It's a rivalry game. They played it at Auburn. Crazy things happened during that game. That game does not, just because they didn't play well offensively, does not mean they won't play offensively moving forward.
Play well offensively. I mean, yeah, they've struggled on the road as much as you can say Alabama has struggled in a year that they have lost one game and had nail biters against Auburn.
They've had two 2-point games and a loss.
It's not the same dominant Alabama.
No.
There's no reason. I know that they're always your measuring stick because they have all the prestige. They have all the recent titles, them and Clemson anyways, and you want to say beat Alabama. Well, I think on Saturday, Georgia will beat Alabama, and then there's a new standard, and it's very clearly a down year compared to some of the all-time teams that Alabama's had.
Courtesy of our friends at DraftKings, the team total over-under for Alabama is 21.5. I'm sure that number hasn't been below 35 in years.
For Alabama, it also hasn't been over like 12.5 for quite some time for Georgia.
The most points Georgia has given up, I think, was 17 against Tennessee. Is that it?
Yeah, Tennessee was able to move the ball.
Crazy.
Off the top of my head, I think you're right.
By the way, Mike, just to be provincial about our program, the 01 Miami provincial, the 01 Miami Hurricanes only gave up 103 points. Wow. And Georgia gave up 83. So it's close.
Would you guys be shocked if Alabama scores 21 points on Georgia's D?
Yeah, because I haven't seen it. I wouldn't be shocked if there's any team on Georgia's schedule that would put up 21 points. It would surely be this one.
So, Dan, that's what I was asking. If, right, it's a big if, Alabama puts up 21, 24, would that be enough? Because Georgia's offense is not great.
What I'm telling you, you can question Georgia's offense all you want. I understand that. What I am telling you is that Alabama this year has not been in the same stratosphere as Georgia. They are a couple of bounces away from losing 3 games. Georgia's coming out, and Georgia Tech has no chance from the start. It's 0 points. They're going to get shut out. They're not going to move the ball the entire game because it's too fast and too strong. You're talking about a disparity in the conference. The difference between Georgia this year and the rest of the conference is what the difference has been with Alabama and the rest of the conference for the last 10 years. Like, that's what has happened this season in the sport. And yes, you can question Georgia's offense all you want. They haven't needed it all season. They have not needed their offense to do anything. Maybe they'll need him to do something against Alabama. That's your hope. My prediction would be the only way Alabama wins that football game is if Georgia's offense has disaster turnovers, where they're just telling Alabama to go 10 yards or pick sixes. That's the only way you're going to do it against Georgia. I can't imagine a scenario where Alabama's athletes are so good that they're putting up 35 on Georgia just without any problem.
Even the greatest teams of all time at certain points in the season have had to turn to their quarterback, and their quarterback has had to make a play. We haven't. I don't know.
Georgia hasn't done that yet.
No, they haven't had to turn to Stetson Bennett. Now, keep in mind, if Stetson Bennett struggles, they won't be shy about putting in JT Daniels, who was supposed to come in and be like this prolific passer, and Stetson Bennett has very clearly been better than him. In fact, I thought JT Daniels was rather bad against Clemson earlier in the season. Bennett has some mobility.
But Clemson's the second best defense in the sport.
Yeah, Clemson's fantastic, and that's how you beat Georgia. You drag them down into a rock fight, and you force that quarterback to make a play and see what he's made out of.
Right. Georgia won that game 10-3. So
there's a dozen people in this room. Am I the only one who thinks Alabama's going to win? Because I do.
You're not alone.
All of the pressure is on Georgia. Their offense, Alabama's going to win a 20-17, 24-20 kind of game. I think the point spread, which last time I saw was 6.5 or 7, is outrageous disrespect for Alabama and everything they've done.
No, I would argue that Georgia fans are really worried about that, not because they think that they're a worse team, but because this team has a history of losing these big games.
Yes.
So
Georgia fans
I'm
are so
sure
weird.
they're very nervous about this game. I think anything's possible.
So happy you pointed that out. Anytime I talk to a Georgia fan, I'm like, holy cow, your team is amazing. They're like, we're going to screw it up. I'm like, how can you say that? No, we always joke. I'm like, this is overwhelming. I will buck against the notion that all the pressure is on Georgia. Georgia can lose this game.
They're still in.
Decisively.
Yeah.
And still make the college football playoff. Alabama needs this to get into a college football playoff. For Alabama to get shut out of a college football playoff, that is an embarrassment for that program. I think all the pressure's on them.
And it's kind of the reverse of 2018, where Georgia needed to win the SEC championship game to make the playoff. Alabama somehow won that game. It was one of the best SEC championship games.
They pulled their quarterback that was struggling. It was a reverse national title game where Hurts came in and saved their bacon.
And then Georgia ended up with 2 losses. And so when Georgia's neck was on the line, they couldn't pull it off. But Mike is right. There's less pressure knowing that if they're a 1 seed, they'll probably play a Cincinnati. If they're a 2 seed, they'll probably play maybe Michigan, maybe Oklahoma State, maybe even Notre Dame. But there's less stress knowing that your ticket to the playoff has already been punched.
There may be less stress this year, but when I say that, I'm talking about the macro where Alabama and Saban have nothing to prove. And to your point, what you said about the attitude of Georgia fans, that's why I think the pressure is on them. Because even their most ardent fans don't feel in their heart that they're going to win.
It's hard to have faith in Kirby Smart and Stetson Bennett and frankly Georgia.
But you're saying have faith in that defense.
Because you haven't seen them do it yet.
But why do you guys do this idea of parsing pressure as if 80% is on one team and 20% is on the other? There's enormous pressure, an enormous game with national stakes. The national game of the weekend that we've been waiting for all season is happening now. There's enormous pressure on everybody involved in that football game.
But there's really, but
who cares? What I'm saying to you is, what difference? Alabama's played in this game 50 times. Georgia never has. Who cares who the more pressure is on?
Pressure does weird things. Like, I'm excited to see Georgia play without that pressure this weekend, knowing they're going to make the playoffs regardless if they win or lose. Like, I want to see what it looks like.
What I'm asking you guys, Mike says all the pressure's on Alabama. Greg Cote, this is a topic du jour on ESPN any day. Who is more pressure on? And what I'm asking you is, what difference does any of that make? It's a giant game played by college kids who can all be affected by pressure at any time. What difference does it make?
I don't know what goes into teams showing up to games flat and being unprepared. This is just all speculating. I think perhaps, hey, while it's the SEC title game, while it's the measuring stick game for your program, because you're always going to be judged in that conference as to what you do against Alabama, my mind can wrap around a scenario in which Georgia's like, whatever, we'll win the national title. This game doesn't mean as much, where Alabama is fighting
they want
for
to be
their lives.
unbeaten.
They are incentivized by winning the SEC and not letting Alabama into the playoff.
They want to beat the program that's mattered for a decade.
Especially that coach.
I mean, they're any number. They want to go undefeated. They want to. If you can't be the best defense ever, if you get scored on,
there's plenty of motivation there. But these are all things that if Georgia loses, are going to point to. Well, they came out flat, blah blah blah. I don't know what goes into any of that. What does any of this mean? None of it's important. What am I even talking about?
More relevantly, I want to ask you if you know the origins of the phrase "save your bacon." If you know where that comes from,
you never get rid of your bacon.
What it is that you're saying, I don't know where save. Thank you, Stugotz. I don't know where "save your bacon" comes from, or I know what it means, but I don't know the origins of it.
I guess the mentality for Alabama is that this is a single elimination playoff game for them, right? Like, this is a play-in game for the playoff. They have to win this game to keep playing in the postseason. For Georgia, maybe they'll have a more conservative game plan. Maybe if there's a player who maybe is a little hurt, they will save them for a playoff game rather than risk them being injured. Like those are the things that I could see playing into it. I think it's like like you said, it's a philosophical debate. We don't really know what goes into it, but I guess that's all that debate is.
But wasn't Alabama playing for its life against Auburn and
Yes,
what? And
yes.
what? Like it was a bounce away from having its season wrecked. Like they were playing for their life and what? It was pretty random that they won the game.
And Bryce Young had a drive.
At his
Right.
Heisman moment, the drive. Yeah.
And they won a game they had no business winning.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yep.
Saban.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but in when we went overtime after overtime and it's a 2-point conversion, like there's no difference between the teams at that point. It's one team can get 3 yards and one team.
there is a
home
difference.
field. Home field.
The difference is one team won
And the other
didn't.
team lost.
The
right.
difference is that Auburn's player ran out of bounds.
Yeah.
And that's a coaching thing. Like you got to know you have to stay in bounds in that spot.
You guys think that proves what? Like they could have lost at.
They've been tested.
They're pedigreed in a way that Georgia's not. I mean, Alabama has how many players on that roster who have been through huge pressure-filled games? And how many does Georgia
Quite a few
have?
on the defense. Normally, I would say, well, probably not many because they just reload year over year. But on that defense of Alabama, they are veteran. They have played a lot of that core on Georgia before. They have played them well. Experience in these games does matter.
I guess it's that like Nick Saban can pull a rabbit out of his hat in these games, whereas Kirby Smart has choked in a lot of them.
Except when he doesn't, though. Except when Nick Saban
Yeah,
doesn't.
but he usually does.
Okay, but,
Usually does.
Okay,
It's
but
very
except he didn't
frustrating.
make the playoffs a couple of years ago because they had 2 losses. Except when he doesn't.
Like the
And-
one time though.
Yeah, but he's never played this defense. This is the first time he's playing. This
He's
is the
played
first.
a defense close to it in Clemson.
I would say that this is the first time he's playing this defense with his team in this kind of state where you're like, wait a minute, a 2-point win at Florida and a 2-point win at Auburn, and you've got a loss to the 5th place team in your in this division in
Texas
the conference
A&M.
in Texas
Yeah.
A&M. Like that's not. They are not playing to Georgia's level this season.
Nick Saban's Alabama is never a 6.5-point dog. It's just that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
respect.
crazy.
But that's where some of that stuff kind of creeps in, where you're like, hey, we're Alabama. They're going to disrespect us by
like seeing them like
favoring
that.
Georgia
They went into
by
the-
6.5 points. We're Alabama. And then Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns.
They went into the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter at Auburn with 0 points.
Yeah.
The Auburn quarterback couldn't move for an entire fourth quarter, and they still probably should have iced the game. Like the quarterback could not move. Their choice was to throw on a walk-on, and they didn't want to do that. So they kept a quarterback who could not walk.
For this particular matchup, I'm hedging my bets so much just because it's Alabama and it's the mystique of Nick Saban. But there is nothing that I've seen this
Right.
season.
If you just based it on having watched football this season,
Just
Georgia
this year.
deserves to be a 6.5-point favorite. Perhaps more.
I feel it's too low. I feel like I want to bet Georgia based on what I've seen this season, and the only
I
reason
dare
is
ya.
10 years of fear. It's based on things that have nothing to do with this team.
You bet Georgia, Dan, and have fun when you're down 14
All
at
right,
middle of the second
let's make
quarter.
it a public
Okay.
bet. You've been questioning Georgia all season. Let's do this. You're so confident in Alabama.
I'm not that
Let's
confident.
go ahead and do some Shane
I'll
Riddle
join.
bet. Let's
Am I
do
getting
it.
6.5?
You
I've
and
been
me.
pro
Can I
Georgia
buy
since
up
that
a half
Clemson
point
game.
to
Wait a
7?
minute. Now you're making the argument from winning by 3 touchdowns to can I buy 6.5
We're not
points?
going straight up here.
I don't get 6.5 like everyone
You
else.
want 6.5 now?
Well, why wouldn't I get
You just
6.5?
said you wouldn't be surprised if they won by 3 touchdowns.
I have 2 guys telling me it's the best defense they've ever
So
seen.
let's
I
bet
deserve
it.
my
So
6.5.
All right, so we'll give you 6.5. That's fine. We'll give you 6.5.
Okay. I'm in.
Yeah.
What's the bet?
I don't know.
Let's think about it.
I won't pay
Send
off.
your bets in. Yeah, that's true.
And the bet that's the thing that you heard the key muttering, the key asterisk he put on the other end of that. Hey, you guys have boxed me in. Yeah, no, I'm not doing any of this. None of it. I don't believe any of what I'm saying.
That's a good defense.
Never mind. All I've been doing is questioning all season this team I haven't watched at all in Georgia. All I've been saying is you got to beat Alabama, and then I just say they're going to beat Alabama's going to beat them by 3 touchdowns. Put stakes on it. Oh no. No, never mind.
They've only given up 83 points.
Can I get 6.5 points?
Well,
is what you say with all the confidence in the world.
What if you want to go straight up?
Yeah,
if you
I
want to go
don't.
straight up results, I will do the fine bomb. The old classic.
Oh shit!
I'm willing to do
Holy
a hair versus hair match.
Shit!
If we're just going straight up.
Well, I'm not going straight.
Holy shit! It's Stu Cote.
No.
I did it already.
I want to intervene here. I want to intervene here. That's a dangerous game.
Are you kidding me, Mike?
I'll
Mike,
do the fine bomb straight up.
this is crazy what Mike is just.
No spread, just straight up. Your whole Alabama's the best. Do it against Alabama.
Wow.
And me just
He just put his
trusting
money.
that I've seen the best defense I've
Yeah,
ever
but he's
seen.
taking 6.5 away.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
how much
Oh, but-
confidence does he have in that defense?
Well, I just raised the stakes.
It's his
hombre.
hair.
He just put his hairless balls on the table, Stugotz.
Been there, done that. I mean, been there, done that. Sorry.
Full circle joke there.
Greg Cote, are you familiar with
Circle joke.
what the fine bomb is? Because for the audience that doesn't know, I'd like everyone to understand. Mike Ryan cares about his hair. Mike Ryan is worried about losing
There's
his
a good
hair.
chance that if I do this, it never grows back.
This is what you have just put up at stakes is shocking to me. The amount of belief in Georgia that you have is the opposite of the amount of belief in Alabama that Stugotz has.
Stop saying the name
despite
Georgia.
all
Stop
his-
reminding me.
all his bluster. Like Stugotz is now so. I've never
He's
seen him so
taking the
scared.
spread out of it.
Yeah,
though.
that's
I
not
mean,
fair.
It's not fair.
Make that bet against the spread.
Yeah.
What you're
If
scared
you're
of
that confident, I
is
mean,
his confidence.
Spread is
I am
generally 50-50.
terrified of his confidence.
Sports books are aimed that the spread is aimed to just get 50-50 action, be a coin flip, and collect on the vig. I'm not gonna bet my hair on 50-50. I'm gonna bet my hair on what I've seen this season.
And I think we got to find someone to take that bet. I don't know, because Stugotz isn't going to do it. And I can't do it because I agree with Mike Ryan.
Roy.
Like, I'm going to. Roy.
Roy's
think
been
about
bald
this.
several times over.
I'll do it.
You'll take Alabama?
Wait a minute. No.
Listen.
Wow.
The
Don't
razor
said
will
it,
break
Dan.
as soon as it touches Woody's hair.
I think it's
anyway.
legally binding.
You're going to
Nothing
take
would make me
Alabama? You don't
happier.
even believe in what you're
Whittingham,
saying.
I don't.
Whittingham,
You're the one who's been telling me how great Georgia is.
Whittingham, you're going to be doing MLS games and soccer games as Paul
Listen.
Feinbaum, having lost all of your hair.
My hair will grow back by January.
That's
It'll
what
be all
Josh
right.
Appel thought.
Well, this is nice of you as a team player to do something
Thanks,
that
doesn't
Woody.
even believe.
you don't
That's not even
believe in.
conviction.
It doesn't feel right for
I
that
don't
to
want
be
to
the
bet
risk.
against a man that has nothing to lose. It's crazy talk. that's someone that just wants to. I just said,
What do
hey,
I have to
let's have a
lose?
friendly wager, and Whitty just pulled out a gun.
Stugotz,
Wait, hold on. Well, you have someone willing to take the bet. Now you don't want the bet?
Yeah,
But he has
seriously.
nothing
Look
to
at
What's
him.
going on here?
Look at him wiggle
You
out
and I
of this
have
bet.
genuine stakes here. We both fear that if we shave our head, it's never going to come back. We'll be permanently disfigured for this.
Mine just grew back from the last time I did it.
Think
I don't
about
think
how
I've ever
weird
seen your
Whitty's
hair.
going to look bald, though.
But Whitty doesn't even believe what he's saying.
I can't do the bet this way. The reason I can't do it, it's less satisfying that Whitty's just doing it as a team player so that the
no, my bet
audience.
is against him
The
espousing the,
guy
same
who's
nonsense all year
for
long.
all year, his only analysis is Georgia beat Alabama. Prove it to me.
Yeah.
But he hasn't had any other college football analysis.
What other analysis is there to give? That's the
That's it.
game.
That's all
Whoever
you
wins that
need.
game
I
wins
will
it
say
all.
your confidence just scared me a little bit, Whitty. But my qualm is not with you; it's with him. Qualm. My qualm.
We're qualming.
Yeah, my
Your
qualm.
quarrel or your qualm?
I combine the two.
6.5 points, and perhaps we'll get somewhere. I mean,
My qualm
Yes.
is with you saying beat Alabama
right. Okay.
and not watching college football.
now
at all.
I'm telling you, beat him by 6.5.
There you go.
Stugotz is going to continue to wiggle around here.
Maybe
We're not
1.5.
going to get the payoff, Mike. So is there a permutation of this bet that has you shaving your head if Georgia loses outright? But then at 6.5, we can have some stakes as well for Stugotz. Or do you think he's just going to keep backpedaling and never pay anything, and it's just going to be stakes for you?
I'm willing to agree that. Shit, this is a monster game this weekend. I'm willing to agree to Stugotz's stakes are 6.5, though I will say that's bullshit. My stakes are just straight up.
That's
But
also-
what
there could be
happens
a
if
sweet
it's
middle.
what happens
So
if
no
a
one
4-point
could pay
game?
out.
What happens if Georgia wins by 4?
Then we all lose.
Well,
Well, that's Stugotz's cowardice defeats us all. Like,
that's a middle.
Mhm.
That's what you call in the gambling world.
But how
a
am I
middle.
the coward here?
yeah.
You're not.
Right.
Stugotz, the reason that
Because
you're
you
the
just
coward
wanted
all
6.5.
year, you have crushed the idea
Right.
that Georgia's for real. And it's not
Yes.
been about point spreads. It's not been about does Alabama need 6.5 points. All year, you've been out here saying they need to beat Alabama. Now you're saying I need 6.5 points. It's not about beating
The
Alabama.
and all year, you guys have been telling me this is the greatest
Okay,
defense you've
hold
ever
on.
seen. So
That's
you
right.
shouldn't
I'm
be
gonna nuke
scared
this.
about
I'm gonna nuke
6.5
this right
points.
now, would you do the Feinbaum
it's a
for 6.5?
touchdown.
Would you do the Feinbaum for 6.5?
If you give me 6.5 points,
if we play the spread,
Georgia wins
up,
by 7 points. I have to do Feinbaum. Sure,
It's done.
It's not done.
Why not?
It's done.
Sounds done.
And so it is.
Because again, Mike Ryan is putting.
Mike, I will tell you, it took me 18 months to grow my hair back.
Thanks.
18 months.
Why are you telling him that?
I just
Done.
wanted him to know. I care.
Mike Ryan is doing a 50-50
All right,
bet.
let me think about this.
Okay.
Another thing. I
guys
want to do this on the
agreed. You guys
fly.
gave
just
the turn.
agreed.
Yeah, you gave
He
him the
just
turn. He
agreed.
said,
Yeah.
okay.
I wanted to see if he would do it.
Well, he
asked
did.
him.
I
No,
just
but-
asked him.
But
I
he
didn't
asked
say
the
I challenged
question,
you.
and
Yeah.
Stugotz says yes. Now
He
he
would do it.
agrees. Now we're going to see if
I
Mike
wanted
Ryan
to-
agrees to 6.5
I wanted to make
points.
sure that the spread was the sticking point here and not the actual hair.
Now I'm not so sure. I won 8.5 points.
Okay, see, that's what I was worried about.
Well, no, he agreed to that, and then
That was then. This is now.
Yeah.
It's done. It was
That was
agreed
only
to.
30 seconds ago, but I mean,
So now you've already moved it to 2 points.
well, 9 points now.
Andy's not going to do it if he loses. Like that's it. It's the eternal conundrum of whack-a-mole. And the worst of it is, you will look like Feinbaum if the upset happens, and he will win as he often does.
I will.
It's 11 now.
I will do 6.5.
Oh, it's too bad.
I will do 6.5.
Missed the window. Closed.
I will do 6.5. We'll go. I have Georgia. You have Alabama. Loser shaves her head as Paul Feinbaum. Just I have to do it after the holidays because my wife is going to I have to do it after the holidays.
The caveat.
That's fair.
That's fair.
After the holidays, I get 12.
You'll get to make fun of my big bald head. You'll get to do that. Just let me. I got a 3-year-old. I got family photos to take. Let me.
So
let me
did
go
I
through.
when I did it.
Right. You did it in the dead
He
of
went
summer.
through
You
an
waited
airport
so
dressed
long.
as Guy Fieri.
That was him playing himself there.
We can make it
And
so that-
also, the thing about this is I've seen all these the reason why I wanted to do Feinbaum is I've seen very old videos of Stugotz bald, and the guy looks sexy as all
He
hell.
looks great.
Anytime he does any of these, it's an upgrade on his look. Almost certainly it's a huge downgrade for me.
But Mike, if you wait till January, then if you're going to be doing anything for the Super Bowl, you are going to be bald.
I'm fine
for
with that. I'm fine with that. My wife will have a problem with Christmas, so.
I think that what we need to do is delay it for both of you until after the holidays. When we haven't paid off but like 3 of these things in the whole season.
Why is Billy like riding my ass about paying off a death real quick?
Well, December's coming tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
guys.
Well, this is bull season.
It actually
right here.
started today.
Tell us about December.
Well, every day someone's going to schedule we have a schedule out there of the payoffs for these punishments, and you guys better adhere to it.
Or else. There it is. The commissioner has spoken.
Or you're not going to the Super Bowl because I'm in charge of credentials.
Wow.
Have we told people we're going to the Super Bowl?
We
I was
did just now.
reprimanded for saying.
Well, I don't know. That's not confirmed yet.
Or we
but-
don't go to the Super Bowl. Oh no, take my eyes, but not the shirt.
I was reprimanded a day ago for saying, am I allowed to announce that we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff next year? I was yelled at, and now we're telling everybody we're going to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm just threatening to pull credentials.
All right, so we have a bet.
Which
hair
one?
versus hair,
Mhm.
the Feinbaum. We'll play the spread, courtesy of our friends DraftKings. We're locking in that 6.5 point number. I have Georgia minus 6.5. You have Alabama plus 6.5. Loser shaves their head into Paul Feinbaum after the holidays.
I will also add a corollary. If anything change, the bet's off. If anything changes that point spread by 3 or 4 points before the game happens. If
You mean like if a quarterback gets in a car accident and
or Nick Saban just leaves for the Notre Dame job, or like just something happens that can change the spread, because it's a crazy time in college football as we head into the biggest game of the season with the best defense many of us have ever seen.
Not really how gambling works.
a doomsday
Seriously.
clause, like a doomsday event clause?
What a
that if
spoil
there's-
sport.
You don't think I'm just trying to save you guys the embarrassment of getting locked in on a bet where
No.
something
Yeah, I
happens?
don't want
All of a
I don't
sudden,
want
Bryce
Jordan
Young
Davis.
is
I'm
out.
not worried about Saban going to Notre Dame.
Okay,
We're
are you
all
worried
in.
about Bryce
Should
Young?
be.
Well, that guy I'm worried about.
These are like life event
games
clauses.
in 2 months. I mean,
The bet is done. No changes. The bet is done. You can't change it. You can't say, well, if this happens, if it changes by 3 points, but not 2.5.
I think
I mean,
it can
come
be
on.
reasonable if like a team bus breaks down and half the team can't make it. You know, just life event stuff.
okay, that's fair.
Doomsday event scenarios.
Weak.
You're saying weak?
Yeah.
Amin is shaking his head. No, you don't want any corollary
Like
on
if
this.
Stetson Bennett like breaks his wrist in practice
You
right
said
now.
you like JT Daniels.
No, I said I don't like JT Daniels. They have JT Daniels is all I said.
This bet is drowning.
It really is.
In like red tape and like
Well, this is a negotiation.
legalese
Hey,
and
big boy, you
fine
want in?
print.
Huh? You want in, big boy?
No,
Come
you,
on.
you guys want the glory of this bet without actually making it.
No, I made the bet 6.5. Boom.
Then it's locked.
right.
Sorry, Dan. It's locked.
No, there's no sorry me. We get the payoff. These are just enormous stakes that have been attached to this, and we question whether Stugotz will ever pay any
It's
of them.
6.5.
I paid him before. How'd you avoid any of this bets?
Because I don't believe that the thing that
you always do this to me. Golick's hand was up my ass, not yours. What?
The bet was not his hand up your ass.
What? Well, it was.
You asked for that because you like it.
Baby.
That's a personal request.
Baby.